as you'd expect, you have to start things a little bit early, and we really was hoping for a, I don't know, a in-person, I don't know, really, well, everything's robust. I was just, we were just hoping we'd get to see everybody in person, and was really looking forward to that. And then people looked and said it wasn't working out, but we went ahead because we're real excited about hosting this meeting. So we just wanted to welcome everybody. We appreciate everybody's email and paying attention to that. And so I think maybe kind of the overview objectives of this meeting is that we just wanted to touch with WEC and do some planning. We have some announcements on planning for WEC involvement in Santa Fe and what that future is, and that'll occur through the meeting. And then just give an update, as we usually do in this format with WEC, of what's going on with each of the universities. So appreciate your interest in being with Zoom. I think you have obviously the agenda, so as your schedule allows, please participate today and Friday, tomorrow at our tour. We don't have any plans to highlight that, but we could recap for you on Friday all the highlights that you missed. So
I wonder, can you put the screen on the Brady Bunch view? Then, because then I'm not sure who's all on.
Yeah, we don't need to see us.
Yeah,
We
don't
like
need
to see
us,
this
yeah.
gallery. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay, so there's, okay.
I'll log off so you don't get to see two of me.
okay.
Okay, sorry, Russ Tronstead, your University of Arizona, came in just a little bit ago. We'll just introduce everybody who's
Okay.
here, right?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Jan Gonzalez with the University of California Cooperative Extension, San Diego.
So Jim Olchin, University of California Cooperative Extension, a extension specialist, animal management systems at UC Davis and Department of Animal Science.
Carol Bishop, University of Nevada. We are no longer cooperative extension, we're just extension. We don't have to cooperate anymore. And I'm an extension educator in the Southern Nevada area, but I also work as an economist, small farm economist throughout the state, since we don't have that specialty.
I'm Jerry Spinelli. I'm with the UC Cooperative Extension of San Diego County, and I'm the production horticulture advisor for nurseries and greenhouses.
Hi guys, Ramiro Lobo here, San Diego County Farm Advisor, working with small farms and ag economic related issues.
Hi, Shannon Nybergs, Washington State University, Director of the Western Center for Risk Management Education, and with extension at WSU, doing mostly livestock projects.
Why don't you go, Clark? You're on the top of the screen.
All right. I feel bad that I don't have a mask on, but that's okay. Clark Sievers, Oregon State University with the in the Department of Applied Economics. I too am disappointed that we didn't have a chance to all meet together. This will be my last meeting. I'm retiring in September, so if I go pop in and out, I have the privilege.
Hey, Ruby, you're next.
Ruby Ward, Utah State University.
Where's that?
That's awful brief, Ruby.
What were you doing more?
I'm in the Department of Applied Economics and work on mostly agriculture entrepreneurship. And then I'm going to be talking tomorrow about tax education. Is that better, Carol?
Yes, I'd also like to know where your background picture was taken.
Oh, I was jealous that Cole was outside, so I thought I need to liven mine up a little bit. I didn't want to just have the campus. This is actually up at my parents' farm in Idaho.
Beautiful.
East of Rexburg, west of the Tetons.
Okay, Cole?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cole Lemke. I'm an extension specialist, 100%, based in the Ag and Applied Economics Department and working with UW Extension, and I cover rural entrepreneurship issues as well.
Do you also cover why John Hewlett's not on or no?
No, I'm afraid I can't cover John's job.
Okay,
Or Juan Mendoza.
okay. Pat, you're next.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Pat Hatzenbuehler. I'm extension specialist in crops economics based in Twin Falls, Idaho, at the University of Idaho. And Hernan Tejeda, I believe, is on his way there, so he'll be in-person representative for University of Idaho. Yeah, I wish I could have been there, but something came up for early January in California. It just seemed like couldn't make it happen, but I'm glad that I could participate on Zoom. So appreciate you allowing us to be here on Zoom.
Great. Okay, Jan? Yeah, I know, I guess you don't want to.
Oh, that's
Yeah, you
me.
already did everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I could start off in terms of our, the question, I guess, about our extension hires in recent years in Arizona. We haven't, I mean, our agricultural economics department has been pretty flat, I guess, in terms of everything, but there have been some people retire in like plant sciences with weed sciences, whatnot, that they did, turn around and hire those specialists fairly quickly. They've been trying to get another package in with the legislature, just take care of inflation and get some more positions, but that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so basically where Arizona's at. So I guess nobody's here on Colorado, but I know Becca was talking about how Colorado had a whole bunch of positions coming up at CSU as part of the legislature. I guess California, I don't know what.
There's a lot of us here from California. So why don't you also speak to the county level and I'll speak to the university.
Okay,
Oh.
well, I mean, locally, our numbers have been really bad. We used to have a group of 13 academics in our office, down to 2, and we're slowly rebuilding now with Jerry Spinelli coming on board. There is another position, not directly related to what we do as a WEG, but yeah, building numbers a little bit. The interesting part of this is that there's been a lot of hybrid funding for positions, and that's pretty much a trend statewide for a number of different programs. I mean, whether under contract with the California Department of Food and Ag, who are providing funding for specific programs to do extension and outreach work, and or through the legislature that they've approved recently funding for 5, I believe, small farm advisors and about 7 community education specialists throughout the state. And that was pretty much a result of lobbying efforts by CAF, which is California Alliance for Family Farms. So that was pretty exciting, but these are short-term positions. The idea is that at some point the funding will become more permanent to make these people permanent. So yeah, the range in time goes from 3 to 5 years on this sort of contracted position. And then the university, the division is making a strong push for co-funded positions. I mean, we're going to industry and saying, hey, you put half and we put half, and we've gotten a few of those funded to work in viticulture is one of them, viticulture industry, and any other one, Jen, that you're aware of? I know there is one on viticulture. For sure that it's been higher. And I believe it's another one for the almond industry. Locally, the Farm Bureau has kind of approached us for co-funded positions, but nothing has really come to fruition out of that. But there is still an interest, and so that's kind of a trend that we're seeing pretty much from the state level. I mean, Department of Ag, legislature, and or industry and allied groups. So
And, well, I'm not really sure I know what's happening at Berkeley or at Riverside, but at least Davis, the influx of money within the state has increased the money into extension and all in the university in general, of course. And so they gave us 8 new specialist positions this year to fill, and that was just announced. And I don't even have the list in front of me, but it covers a little bit of everything. So a few animal positions, several in the crops area, a few in the social side of things. So, and those will be recruited over the next year. So that's, but to be honest, up until this time, we've been pretty much flat and steady and just watched a few people retire till now, and recently, at least since this group has met for the last few years.
So where's the money coming from for the
Well,
specialists?
our state has somewhere like it fluctuates every day, $50 to $80 billion excess in the budget.
I see, okay.
And so they've kind of parceled that out. Fortunately, most of the things in the state have been are going to one-time things as opposed to things that are going on forever. But these, at least an extension, are trying to rebuild some of the university capabilities, and so those will be permanent positions, of course, as well as the ones you guys were talking about, at least for partial funding or full funding, whichever they were.
yeah, and I would say a replacement was hired to do, a person was hired to do what Karen Klonsky used to do at Davis. You know what, Brittany, is it Brittany?
Yeah, that's right. That's I haven't met her yet.
Yeah, I briefly met her, but yeah, the pandemic, we haven't really interacted much, but she's on board doing work on risk management. And crop budgets used to be Karen's kind of a gig, but for a long, seems surpassing the Dan Sumner and the Ag Issue Center took that over. And now Brittany, I want to say Brittany is the name, I'm not totally sure, but she's taking that over as well. And the positions that Jim, I think, is mentioning, there is one to do economics of food chains. It's one person that is coming on board to do that. And then others are harvested crop safety and quality that sort of relate to what we do, and other position on agricultural toxicology, dairy cattle production, health and management, diseases of nursery, greenhouse, and native crops, food animal welfare, nutrition and health equity, and soil health. It's out of the Water Institute.
So those people have been already hired, or they're?
No,
just-
No, they've been approved.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
it just announced a week ago, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Just recently.
And they're all like tenure track or continuing?
Yeah.
track?
These are tenure track, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, all the positions funded by the Division of Ag are tenure track, but parallel to that, there has been this other that are either co-funded or funded through contract with state agencies or special allocation by the legislation.
And kind of peripheral though, there's been quite a bit of funding from state agencies for one-off type of projects. We've had a couple of graduate students hired to go over and do a project for a year or two, so, which is kind of new. We haven't had that happen before.
Yeah, and
They have money, basically, is what they have to spend.
okay, well, great. How about next, Idaho, maybe, Pat?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best, and then maybe Hernan can fill in things that I miss. We've had several hires over the past couple of years within extension in a broad sense. I think outside of economics, we have things that are happening soon. I think an irrigation specialist is retiring, and hopefully have a replacement soon after or before he moves on. We had a weed scientist hired recently, but at the county level, there's been a whole lot of turnover and a lot of retirements. And so there's probably too many for me to remember. And so maybe I should set a homework assignment to do some listing and provide some more formal description of who's left and who's come in. But with regard to economics, Ben Eborn was in our department, and he was an area extension economist, just like Ashley Westerhold, who is still in our department. And so he now has taken over North American potato market news. So he's still like in the family, so to speak, doing work that's relevant for extension, but he's not within our department anymore. And so we did, while Ashley was very instrumental in lobbying for his replacement, and we did get that approved. And so that will be starting search for that soon. That's a tenure track, master's level, area extension educator in farm management. So hopefully that will be filled soon and we can share with you. So hopefully if you know good candidates that you can spread the word. And then in the context of that, we also got approved for an area extension educator in natural resource and range economics. And this was, again, Ashley was instrumental in this one too. So that it was initially viewed as a specialist position for PhD level, but we had difficulty finding candidates who were suitable for that specialist level. And so the theory is that it'd be more competitive to get more master's level people. This was a position that stakeholders, especially the Idaho Cattlemen's Association, is really interested in having a rangeland economist. And the tasks that they were requesting were viewed by several of us to be up to the task for a master's level area economist. So again, please keep those two on your radar. Those are 70% at least extension, both of them. And hopefully we can get them on board with doing stuff in the WEC immediately when they come join on, hopefully within 2022. And then I think that's it. We aren't sure about any other hires within the department up in Moscow. So I think that's it for extension for this year for economics in Idaho.
Okay. Up Nevada.
Well, our Dean of Extension went to Oregon. Goodbye and good luck.
Who's that? Do you remember?
Thanks a lot.
Ivory Lyles. And so we do have a new extension field crop specialist. We are going to Maninder Walia, who's taking over some of what used to be Jay Davison's work with teff and some other forage crops. We are going to be losing a lot because we're under mandatory vaccination mandates. And we're going to be losing our forage guy out in at least 3 of our extension people that work out in the counties, but they're our main forage, and like Gary McCune in Eureka County, Steve Foster in Pershing County, which are our major field and forage people.
So you're losing them because of the mask mandate? I don't
No,
understand.
because we are, it's mandatory vaccination requirements,
Oh, and they're not gonna vaccinate.
and they choose to either retire or leave because of, yeah, and we've lost some other people, and we'll see how many people actually drop out. It was December 31st is the deadline. So that's really going to be impacting us. The other thing that's kind of exciting is, about what was it, 10 years ago, they did away with our whole resource economics department at Gabner. But now, this next fall, university is offering a new dual degree program in ag science and economics. So College of Business is stepping up and playing nice with our College of Ag so that we can again have that dual degree program, have the collaboration between the ag science and the economics. So that's a little bit of good news. So I'm very excited about that. Also, I'm on part of the recruitment committee we're getting a statewide ag and natural resources person. It's only going to be fun. We only have guaranteed funding for 2 years, but we're hoping to move that into a more permanent place because they're going to act as our WSARE coordinator. And also basically because we don't have we have a small handful of people act as the coordinator so that everybody knows what everybody's doing to help collaborate on stuff. And so we're hiring for that. So that's kind of an exciting thing going on. So we're trying to find ways to do more with less, like everybody else.
So clarify, that is with the business college, the degree, agribusiness degree? It's the
Well,
business-
it's a
business
collaboration between the College of Ag and the College of Business at the
Okay, so
school.
it's like a
Yeah,
joint
so it's a
degree?
dual
A
degree.
dual degree, okay.
Rather than it being an ag economics degree, it's a dual degree in ag science and economics.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and by the way, the legislature a year ago also granted Desert Research Institute and University of Nevada, Las Vegas, land grant status. So we'll see how that plays out.
Oh, really? They can do that, huh?
They did it.
So what
As
does
a
that mean
separate
for
campus
Reno?
or as a division?
They're not part of UNR. Desert Research Institute is their own entity, as is UNLV. And so we now have 3 land grant entities,
So hatch funding goes there.
potentially.
That's what ASU has been pushing for a long time, Arizona State University.
And I'm not really
Yeah.
worried about UNLV because they have no agricultural programs. They have no, but Desert Research Institute does. Like right now, they have an open position for what they're calling, where'd it go? A plant, an ecological monitoring vegetation field technician.
I mean, I think Arizona State views it as it opens up doors for more funding things they can apply for, basically.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I mean, the hatch funds are not that big.
Right, the hedge funds are, but it depends on how your administration views that, experimentation and all that, so it's, obviously in the UC system, we have 3 campuses, and then we have jealousy within the campuses for the folks getting that, so
Yes.
it makes it complicated.
Causes some strife and discontent.
And where is the Desert Research
It's
Institute?
based out of Reno. But
Oh.
there is, they're all over the state.
Okay.
There's some in Elko, there's some in Vegas.
So tell me about, are they part of a educational institution, or what are they?
Let me see what they're,
Because I could see the university doing it, but now that's kind of new. Unless I'm
Yes.
missing something.
it says here's their homepage. Since 1959, the faculty, students, and staff at the Desert Research Institute have advanced scientific knowledge to help solve pressing environmental challenges and improve. They're in the system of higher education, and so they're considered one of the colleges and learning facilities throughout the state. So they have 2 world-class research campuses in Reno and Las Vegas. So they're going to be strong competition for research
Are they
dollars.
accredited by any as a university in any way? Or?
I believe
I'm
they
thinking
have to be.
The parallel in my field is the King Ranch Institute in Texas, and finally, after a lot of well, let's just say after a lot of politics and problems, they finally became part of Texas A&M.
Ah. See, I believe, they must be, 60 years accredited, 40 labs, 40 scientific fields on all 7 continents. So they must be
Are they-
accredited in some way
are they-
because
are
they
they-
are
Are
NHSE.
they state funded?
That's a good question. Hmm.
Okay, well, that's enough. I just, this is very odd. yeah.
Yes, it is. It
Because,
is.
you know, if they do that and they're pretty independent, that opens the door to all of us, to everybody that's got some sort of a deal everywhere in the
Mhm.
system.
Okay. Well, Clark,
Yeah.
you want to say what's going on in Oregon? I guess other than getting the dean from.
Yes, please, Clark.
Well, I don't know much about it. I stay away from all that as far as I can. But I have not heard good things. But anyway,
Yeah, that's why it's goodbye and good luck, yeah.
yeah. Well, thanks.
Sorry, Clark,
So-
but at least you're retiring.
No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
At some
so
point,
you don't
just
have to
don't
deal
care
with it.
anymore. Yeah, you just don't care. But as you know, Bart Eleveld retired, Larry Lev, you know, we lost a lot of people. Willie Riggs in the last year retired. He was mostly extension, but still a farm management presence in Southern Oregon. He retired. So really there was only about 0.75 FTE in the Department of Extension. So we have no farm management FTE in the field. So we were pleased to hear that the extension director approved one full-time FTE to be split between 2 positions in our department. So one of the positions is quote unquote fill my position, which is a 50% extension and 50%, 45% teaching. So they'll be teaching 3 finance, microeconomic classes in the department. And then the other one will be for what we're calling the Bruce Weber position. So it's kind of a rural development position. So we're those 2 positions. We just had our first meeting today to go through candidates. But the positions close on the 16th of January. So if you have any students or if you know anybody who's interested, have them apply. Go out and take a look. So anyway, we are going to get a couple more faculty with some extension FTE. Oh, and the Bruce Weber one is 50% research, 50% extension. So that's kind of what's going on at OSU in our department. So we're pleased to get 2 positions with some FTE.
So
And
when
but I'll
you're
be-
gone, Clark, and they rehire these 2 positions, then is that the only 2 positions that are in your department?
Bill Jagger, who
Okay.
works a lot with environmental economic stuff. I'll be around for maybe 2 to 3 years working part-time, wrapping up a couple of research projects. But I'm going to try to stay away from extension type of work and just focus on the research part.
So, but you're saying basically that one person's going to do what 2 people did before, correct or no? What you did and as well as Bruce Weber or no?
Pardon?
If I understood you right, you're saying that one person is going to do basically what both you did and then Bruce, right? Or no?
No, these are two positions.
They are, okay.
2 positions, each having 50% extension.
Oh, okay.
And my position will have 45% teaching with 5% service. The other one will have 45% research and 5% service. I don't know if I can muddy that up any better than that, but
So at the county level, I guess things are pretty flat, or your state budget?
yeah. Yeah, you know, as I said, I try to stay away from all that, but yeah, very flat kind of hires in the field. And when we do get them, they're more professional faculty positions, which the positions that I talked about in our department are tenure track. So.
Okay. So Ruby, do you want to talk about Utah? Utah State? Or?
Yeah. So I did do a little bit of homework. And we have 41 county agents in Utah. 14 of those were hired in the last 3 years. Another 4 are expected to be open positions in the next 6 months. So 41 total, and 20 have either been hired in the last 3 years or will try to be hired in the next 6 months. So I think that's the trend in most states. We had, a lot of changeover. We've been maintaining, and in some places growing slightly. In our department, I'm not sure what Dylan Fates, he's no longer the department head and he's on sabbatic, so I don't know. When he ended being department head, he like almost immediately went on sabbatic for a year. And so I can't remember like what his position is, but I thought that had some extension on it. We've also hired Ryan Fates in the last year, and he'll have a 25% time for extension. And then Anna Thayer Hassett was here, and she had a 25% extension appointment in the area of water. And she was really great. She was a new hire just a few years ago, but was really good through like the drought and everything, to do like updates and how to interpret the drought monitor and other, types of information and stuff. And so we are losing her because she is from back, well, she's going to Clemson, and that's about an hour from her parents' house, I think. So she's going to be done as of the end of December. I'm not sure when we replace her position, there will be some extension because the deans really like the water component. But I kind of wonder if we're going to, instead of getting somebody that can talk to kind of agriculture producers with water, if we're going to get somebody that's more focused on ag and natural, or more on natural resource, environmental type issues. So we'll see where that happens. We also hired Ryan Fates. Did I tell you we hired him with 25% extension? And so we will have an open position, I think. Or no, wait a minute. I think that position's already gone out. But so anyway, we've got, we used to have like 3 or 4 with about 70, 60, 70% extension. Now we have 2 with 70%, me and Ryan Larson. And the rest of it, the other FTE is spread out amongst 4 people instead of being spread out amongst a couple, like it used to be. So I think that's everything for my updates on that.
So like when Bruce Godfrey was there and Devon, were they very like 70% extension? And so now you're saying basically it's just you and Ryan Larson that are 70%, and then like Kinda.
Yeah, Kinda went down and she ended up with more research. And so I think that her extension is now around 25, 30%, but not, I can't remember exactly what it is. So they didn't want to have anybody with these lower extension appointments before, but now I think they're saying if you keep them in a narrow area, like just water or just, something, then they're okay with having those smaller extension appointment. But it's not somebody that's traveling around the state continuously. I'd say the only person in the department that does that nowadays is Ryan Larson.
Okay. So I guess we have Washington State next.
Okay, I can start and Joanne can clear up any confusion I create. So I'll start out with kind of an interesting story on the budget. We do not have a budget cut at WSU, but they formed a committee to strategically recommend how to implement a budget cut. And I'm not on that committee, but I was assigned a advisory role to the committee, meaning I don't know what, but they're going through an exercise of some pretty well, how to manage a budget cut. And so, but I think the clouds are on the horizon in that our enrollment rates at WSU, which has a significant revenue sharing or revenue distribution plan with the tuition dollars, our student enrollment took a pretty big hit from COVID. A lot of, from what I understand, a lot of students said that they were working, they wanted to continue online and didn't want to come back to campus in person. And we have a pretty strict mask mandate on campus too. So while we don't have a budget cut, we're a little worried coming down the road that will be a budget cut. We don't have any hiring plan, and probably part of not having a hiring plan is our dean of the College of Ag and Natural Resources. He went to Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, which puts us in an interim dean, which typically means that they try not to, like Supreme Court votes, they try not to hire actively during that time period, giving an incentive for the incoming dean. So not a lot of news on the hiring front. Some kind of an interesting news on the philosophy of how the College of Agriculture's framing itself is that they have what's called the Soil Health Initiative. And the Soil Health Initiative received money, received support. I think it received some legislative support financially to run this initiative. And so a lot of our, well, a few of the applications for grants that I'm on teams with really built up the soil health attributes of the project. And so that's something that we have ongoing. And the one interesting hire is that I was able to hire John Driver. Some of you may recognize John from his commodity reports from Farm Credit. Some may recognize John Driver from his previous employment with us at WSU. And he's one of the young people who didn't want to go back to the office full time. And Farm Credit was back in the office space mandate. So we were able to hire John with funding from those state or the NIFA money that went to the State Department of Agriculture to do farm stress, farm financial stress. And so John's going to be working on that, and he starts tomorrow. It was just he got married over the weekend. He starts tomorrow. And it just was too much to get him to get it organized to get him down here. But as we do WEC activities in the future, those of you who remember John, he's a great colleague and a great person to have on the team. So we're real happy to get back with John. The center's pretty good. We just in the process of reviewing our grant applications. The center's was fortunate enough to have that expansion of funding that's now in its third year of the underserved producers of crop insurance pool of grants and our traditional education pool. And so we're happily managing those activities. And then Joanne's leveraging that hugely across other avenues. I don't know if you want to add some, maybe this group would like to hear about the FERTEP things.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're pretty involved with the federally recognized tribal extension program, providing support for them. Carol knows, you could give the report, right? But, trying to help them in the areas of outreach for grant, applying for the grant, and then also being a part of, there's the Native Ag Fund that is granting money to the Indian Land Tenure Foundation through the Keep Seagull settlement. Is also helping to supplement FERTEP, and I'm involved on that. It's called, it's a commission for the 21st century in Indian country. And so the center is involved with that in terms of advocacy and more support at both the federal level and other levels for the FERTEP program. Ideally, they would like to expand from the 36 programs that they currently have. And there was a really good listening session last week at the Intertribal Ag Council with a lot of people from NIFA there, Carrie Castile and the head of the Farm Service Agency, and Janie Hip, the Office of General Counsel. So there
Got
was,
to rub bells, hobnob with the biggies.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah. Anyway, it was a great listening session. I think it's in all the work that we've done with FERTEP, I think it seemed to me to be the most promising. I think they have the right kind of leadership at the USDA level to really push the program forward. And then do you
Yeah.
want to, yeah,
Go
go ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say something, but I have my computer spinning. I can't remember what I was gonna.
Were you going to mention at all maybe our outreach for crop insurance for the Hispanic? So talk about that a little bit too. Because we might want WEC involvement.
Yeah.
Support.
Just one of our, as Joanne mentioned, leveraging farm management and economics in the center to the FERTEP program. We're also interested in leveraging that type of activity to the Latino community and expanding their, or actually more of it's expanding our understanding of the challenges they face as they seek to implement crop insurance tools, which based on the demographic of Latinos on their production, a lot of specialty crops, a lot of people will give lip service. Well, I don't want to say lip service, but a little bit harsh word, but tell them to go get whole farm revenue insurance. You're just do whole farm revenue insurance and that'll cover you and everything's good. And we're providing great tools for you, but implementing whole farm revenue insurance is not as simple as just saying that. And there's lots of constraints that we're trying to identify and relate to. One of the really eye-opening experiences on that front is a meeting that Joanne organized with the Latino community, which was just a really interesting location. We drove down a lane, a farm lane of orchards to the house. And but what was so shocking is that they brought an example of a young man who was trying to develop some vegetable gardens on some just little plots of land. And they said, and he said he needs microfinance. He needs to be able to buy a hose and a hoe and just, things way less than $100. And that's and help along those lines would be good. So we're trying to expand that activity, and so that's at its very initial stages, because that's why we don't have a lot of exciting things to talk about that, because we're just getting that off the ground.
Yeah, kind of like Ruby, I don't know if you can hear me, but you know how you were talking about the heat map for the loan forgiveness? It's somewhat like, trying to figure out where these people are. We almost need to create our own heat map to figure out where we need to kind of put our focus.
Yeah, I think that it's really good that you guys are doing that, because not just for Hispanic, but I think we can use it for other, just small farmers in general, because the whole farm revenue, it's good to talk about it, but everybody just looked at the pure human capital involved for a really small operation to do the paperwork. And, a lot of these small operations, if they're doing something intensive, their management capacity is already stretched. And so they didn't really see the benefit for the amount of management capacity that it would take, just from the record keeping to put everything in. So I like that you're documenting that, but I think the area of the really, really small microloans, when you're talking about like less than $100 and stuff, I think that's what we probably have some of that on tribal areas too. And that's where I've said for years that I think there's some similarities between this and some of our like third world countries, you know what I mean? And some of the subsistence type stuff that we see there. And I don't think we always talk about that in terms of US. But I think it'll be interesting to document. And my guess is different people are going to have different needs, right? And is probably beyond the scope of what you're doing, but I've heard the same things about FSA loans, right? Because, capital, that would be where they would go for it, but you're not going to do that for these really, really small amounts. And so a lot of times I think things get funded off of credit cards or cash. And then what does that do to break even? So I think there's some interesting questions to answer there.
Just as a side note, I do want to give a shout out to FSA. We finally got Clark County after years and years and years back in Nevada. And we now have a nice young man as the Las Vegas rep. Yes, so.
You wanted him?
Yes, yes. Better than going to Cedar City.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So,
things promote throughout the meeting and put on people's calendar. I'd like to really encourage, if you're at all interested, to attend our national conference, to put that on the map. I think Pat might be planning to go, but we have travel assistance funds earmarked for that. And because we did virtual, well, we canceled one and virtual last year, our travel fund pool is pretty good, but it's grant funds, so we got to spend that travel assistance because that was in the original budget. And so that's in Omaha, and my geography's bad, but I think Omaha is Nebraska. I'm sure Omaha.
Yes,
Trying to think that Omaha
So
is
do
in
we
South Dakota, but it's in Nebraska.
What time of year is that?
And the dates are,
April.
no,
March.
close, but the actual conference dates are the March 29 Tuesday for the afternoon, and then all day Thursday, the 30th, and a half day on the 31st. So you'll have to see on your travel arrangements if you need to leave on the 28th to make it feasible to get there. But Omaha, Nebraska, March 29th through 31. The call for abstracts is open now. If you want to present a poster, we have a real nice poster reception where that's part of it's the dinner plan for one evening. And the keynotes are the Federal Reserve person.
Is
Well, who is
not
that?
Nate.
Nate, yeah, Nate Kaufman. So Nate's one of our keynote speakers, and then a couple other good ones as well. I can't, like Joanna, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but overall should be a really good conference. If you've been before, I think a lot of people enjoy going, but those are the dates, and put that on the calendar if you're at all interested. And if you need more questions,
Yeah.
let us know.
I just mentioned too, I know
And
last
Mary,
year,
that's a good-
Brent Elrod was our national program leader, and he worked really hard to have Terry Castile involved So she actually addressed the group. We,
Virtually, yeah.
yeah, which was really great. We have a new NPL now, Keith
Keith
Harris. And I looked on the org chart for NIPA, he is wearing so many NPL hats, it's like almost frightening.
Yeah, so we have Nate Kaufman, Eric Snodgrass,
Oh, that's right, Eric.
and Maggie Manast.
Yeah, I've seen Eric present. I've seen two climate, well, and Idaho had Jim. And Jim, I think's gone to California. Pat, I think knew Jim. He has a hard last name to pronounce.
Oh, yeah, John Abatsaglu.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
thank you.
he's at UC Merced now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eric, if he did just a fabulous meteorological job, as good as John. And he's definitely worth the time to listen to.
So I was planning on going, but I don't have a presentation or a poster.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Okay,
We'll put you to.
put me on the list, yeah. Have the local lady in your office that does all the travel, yeah, I don't have to fill out a travel.
Yeah,
And
that one's.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I don't think we'll
Although-
have to go through that, we won't have to go through that extent, because the way the budget is, it's coming from probably the digital center.
Yeah, so you'll go
Minnesota.
through. They'll probably have a voucher that you fill out.
Yeah, they'll have
Okay.
something.
I was gonna send this out to the county agents in Utah, especially since we've had, like I said, like half of them are less than 3 years. So, but I think some of them are wondering, they're not, they see the list of topics and they're not really sure if they're truly getting impacts for like beginning farmers or something. But I would say some of them that are working with like getting produce from farmers to do solve food desert issues with community senior citizen farmers markets and things like that. Would stuff like that, is the interpretation of the programming that broad, or is it
Yeah.
wanting to be pretty farm management oriented?
No, it's definitely broader. They would be very welcome, and their
Okay.
abstracts would be very competitive in the pool.
Okay,
And
so,
so they would be, I think they would find a wealth of opportunities and collaborations. if
I
they-
really think that our county agents could benefit from this probably more than me, because I think they're the ones that could carry out, new programs and other stuff in the state. So, and are probably looking for that. Also, it's not really on the list, but I would say, so we got a SARE grant to do some training for county agents and stuff that we've started now, to just train on like kind of analyzing new opportunities, because we feel like, some of those farm management skills and stuff with all these new agents everywhere, and there's not as many of us. But I wasn't just saying we're doing that, but what did I want to go? Oh, but for just topics in general, I saw also estate transfer was on there, or estate planning. I've heard on my tax meeting last week from people around the US that are on the tax group, that estate transfer is really rearing its head with lots of questions and lots of stuff. Is everybody kind of seeing that in their states? Is that
Yeah, I think that it's appearing. I haven't been asked about it directly, although
okay?
you might think that I'm not the one with that expertise, but yeah, I think that everybody needs to have education on that, because even I am not clear as to what the changes were made, and
Yeah, they said that it wasn't the tax laws, it was the human side of things. How do we communicate? What type of plan do we really want to put in place? How to transfer the management and stuff. They said it was all those types of things that's been like the biggest questions. As far as like the tax stuff, we can talk tomorrow, but we're not gonna know. There was some stuff in proposed, some really, really drastic stuff in the Build Back Better, but I believe that they've taken a lot of the estate stuff out. But it'll revert, partly because it'll revert anyway back in 26, back to the previous law. And so I think it's still, you know, what's going to happen to it long term. I don't know from a tax side, but I think that some of the questions are just, you know, because of the change in land values and some of the other stuff going on, you know, kind of what do they want to do with stuff. So sorry to interrupt with that, but I, just as we were talking, I don't know why I brought that up now. I think just to disrupt.
Okay, so it looks like Kinda joined us. Thanks. Kinda, are you there?
Hi,
Hi, Kinda.
I'm just listening, doing my digital measures.
Very good.
What have you done for the university this year?
We have a new system in place because we've learned digital measures too well. So now we've moved on.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, yes.
Well, digital measures has gotten actually better and easier over the years. And since we
Well,
use it
that's
at
why I'm
UNR,
saying-
I'm happy with it. But yeah.
Yeah. I just got to where I was good at digital measures, so they had to change
Hi,
it.
Carol. That's my girl.
Okay, so Cole, do you want to talk about
Hi,
Wyoming?
Joanne.
Wyoming's holding steady, really. We're not searching for anyone, and we haven't really lost anyone in the farm management side. Bridger Fates used to cover livestock stuff, but he is temporarily filling an administrative role with Extension. We have 2 associate directors, and he's one of them, and he's seems to be getting his PhD, so he's thinking about perhaps the future. So hopefully we will eventually search for a permanent position for that associate director, but nothing at the moment. Otherwise, we're really pretty much steady. We did this year, as far as Ag Econ department, there was a proposal from the university to merge Ag Econ with Econ over in the College of Business, but that got dropped eventually, so we won't have to think about merging cultures and meeting new people. And otherwise, we haven't really lost anyone at the county other than Bridger. So actually, we're holding steady.
So you guys had some pretty severe, though, financial decisions earlier in the year in terms of with your budget.
But yeah, then the price of gas went up, so
That solved
guess.
everything, just right
yeah,
there. Yeah,
we're not having the severe cuts.
so that's off the table now in terms of the cuts.
Yeah. Well, but the university is still going to be doing their reorganization, which was budget oriented, even though now we don't have the budget problem. So we've got a new president. I guess he wants to go do some strategic planning.
Okay. So I guess that pretty much takes us through all the states. I guess, I mean, I don't know, nobody's here from New Mexico. I don't know exactly how they're doing either. We don't have anybody from Montana here either. I don't know.
Yeah.
What other states were not?
Hawaii.
Hawaii's
Yeah,
getting-
Hawaii, yeah, it's not here. either.
Getting more active. There's more, seems to be more extension activity of risk management work that we are funding in Hawaii. So,
Yeah,
Yeah, what happened with Shannon? I thought she was going.
yeah, and Shannon was gonna come. I mean, she filled out the expense form, but then probably determined it was too much, so.
And George. Where's George?
yeah, I thought George Change was
And
coming
George
too.
is the same way.
I thought he was gonna show.
Okay. So if there's nothing else there, I guess we'll move on to or do you want to take a 5-minute break or something? Or, I mean, I guess we don't have
I think
loads of time.
Sounds like, it looks like he's gonna bring something in, so. But I think we should keep going.
Yeah,
He
he just lit
lit
the
us.
burners.
Yeah.
Okay, you just lit the burners. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
we'll,
think we should. I
we'll
think
keep
probably
going.
better Keep going.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I guess the next thing on the agenda is with regards to our Santa Fe meeting this summer. Becca Jablonski is going to be chair. She's going on sabbatical, so she wanted to like move ahead, I guess, in terms of being vice chair to be chair, so she can do this before she goes on sabbatical. So Ramiro was okay with that, that would work out fine with him. So Becca is sending out the call, or has sent out the call, I guess, for our Western Extension Committee symposia and selected papers. I guess, that's probably will depend on us, I guess, in terms of just mainly, we'll be the main ones submitting ideas there. So I guess if there's any topics, we wanted to get on, we could, submit them as a group. The other thought is too, we could even do like an invited symposia too, which, because then, as you can see in Coeur d'Alene, out of the 5 sessions, 2 were basically, kind of invited sessions that we had symposia. So I guess we could open the floor in terms of, well, first, I guess maybe we should talk about the tour. That tends to be one of the things that we have a lot of connection with the WAEA and a lot of interest in. So, I guess maybe I'll open it up in terms of tour ideas in the Santa Fe area. I know we don't have anybody on from New Mexico, but we could definitely work on getting some people involved from New Mexico state, but
If you wanted, we could replicate, we've done a couple of tours out of Santa Fe and have gone.
Call them alcaldes.
Alcalde,
Oh,
the Alcalde Research Station.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alcalde, and then we have some, like Charlene, I know would help us if we wanted to visit some agriculture with the Pueblos. And yeah, I think there's, and then isn't there a mission or something? I'm trying to think. Anyway,
San Carlos Apache.
yeah.
so I mean, what are priorities maybe in terms of ideas? I mean, it seems like water could be something that would be of a lot of interest around there in the area. I mean, water's not as scarce as here, I don't think, definitely in terms of price, but it's still pretty valuable over there in the Santa Fe area there.
And they have a unique irrigation system.
The Acequia. Acequia.
Yeah.
Exactly, real cultural.
Yeah, the history behind the irrigation systems, yeah, I think is something
There's
that's pretty unique, yeah.
So according to the internet, this agritourism worlds, there's the Pocoaque Pueblo Farmers and Crafts Market, 25 miles north of Santa Fe on the tribal land of the Pueblo Pocoaque.
The other,
Carol, could you repeat that a little bit so I could take a note
It's
so
the-
that we can.
Okay, let me spell it out for you.
Please.
Pojoaque Pueblo.
oh, yeah, I know, yeah, Pojo.
That sounds right.
Ramiro, are you taking
And the
some
phone
notes?
number on that is 1-505-455.
Are you taking notes? It's like secretary.
We're recording. so-
Oh.
9086.
Did you say it was
Okay.
a farmer's market?
It's a farmers and crafts market on the tribal at the Pueblo.
Another interesting piece with the water and even, with the Navajo, but even with the Pueblos are some of the lawsuits that are going on with the acequias and giving that water over to
Giving it
like
back.
municipalities. And I think that would be,
Yeah, if we could have somebody speak to the legal side, but I don't know if that lends itself into one of the tours or not, but if we had somebody that could do that, that would be great. I
There's
think.
also a Estrella del Norte vineyard and tasting room, and I know that's a favorite of some of the group.
Why are you looking this way?
I'm looking at Shannon, yeah. Features the very best of northern New Mexico's wines, yes. Estrella
I think that, I think the way that it's planned, the way it's proposed, I think they're planning on having us commit to that tour.
Yeah.
I think that they want to plan to advertise that, so we will put that together, so this discussion's helpful on how to get some new ideas on things that might be of interest.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot of like large scale commercial agriculture right around there that I'm aware of. Yeah, I mean, unless you go way up to the Nappy, you know, and then you get into large, that's just too far away.
Now, there's,
But there's a lot of small scale kind of farms.
there's
down along the
several
river there.
alpaca farms.
Yeah. Ranches on the east side, on the Las Vegas area. It's about 30 minutes away.
So we went to a farm, remember this farm that was sold, that they had the seed bank down underneath? That was really interesting, and they were raising, they had a greenhouse that were raising flowers. They.
Yeah, there's, I think several operations like that. The other thing that might be interesting too is the, on the outlet side, a lot of them go to what is that? The community owned,
Oh, CSA, Earth Trinity Sported Ag?
well, no, it was one of the first in the area, but it's, I mean, all the growers basically, and the consumers own it. It's like a cooperative. It's called,
Oh, yeah.
it's in Santa Fe there, but they do an awful lot of, you know, local kind of foods. I mean, that's pretty much all they sell,
That-
I think.
Pueblo also has a bison egg program.
But we did a bison tour once, not with WEC, but it was with the county agents. And the bison rancher, which was a lady, she agreed to the tour, and then the bus showed up. And then she goes, "Oh my God, I can't, you guys gotta be careful, you'll scare all these bison and we'll have a stampede." So.
There, another place that that Edmund organized was that, was it the hydroponic tomato
All right.
place? That was interesting. That was near Alcalde.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Edmund would probably be willing to help us. I know he's retired, but he might.
Share some ideas for contact.
He would definitely be a contact, I think, to
Paul?
Paul would probably help some too. And there's another person that just started this last year or something at New Mexico State. She was going to come here, but she couldn't make it.
Yeah, it'd be good.
She does more in livestock, but yeah. I thought about maybe seeing if she might be interested in helping to get her more involved.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
I just think since Paul was game for last time, we can say, hey, you know.
You know, we took some notes. I'll try to find them
Yeah.
when he
Yeah,
was.
because you're right,
talking about a
because
tour.
he was gonna organize it, because he was in Coeur d'Alene.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was on a subsequent call that we had, and I made a list of things that he talked about. I'll try to dig that up.
I can help you out. John. I also
Okay.
took notes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, we should get Paul involved, yeah. I thought he might be on, but I didn't know.
Yeah, he mentioned some, and I can't remember the name of it, but some really well-known historical. It's like a museum or chronicle the history of the area. I can't, it's not coming to me.
Well, he can guide us or steer us if.
Yeah, yeah, you sure could.
Okay, any other thoughts or ideas for Santa Fe?
On the tour, I think maybe we should discuss a little bit more on the number of sessions that we have. Maybe even the idea on the estate transfer to do an organized symposium on that. I think that might be a real,
Yeah, I mean,
I think that
especially,
would be of high interest.
especially if there's some speakers that we would want to invite in, you know, we could just make it an invited symposium and then that would just cut down on the number that need to be submitted or that we select out of those that submit symposia. I mean, I think that's the direction that Becca needs in terms of, you know, how many papers and symposia, you know, to accept. Hopefully we have enough submitted.
5 slots again, Russ?
Yeah, so we have 5 1.5-hour slots. So as you can see before, like when selected papers, typically there was like 4. And then with some of the symposia, there'd be like maybe 3 presenters or 2 even in some cases. Like the one we had there with on the blockchain implications for agriculture, we basically just had two presenters, you know. We had you know, Will Cobank and then Rob Jennings out of the Cheyenne, Wyoming, with the beef chain.
It seems like we left a little bit of flexibility. So if when the proposals came in, that when I was several years ago, so that if you had a lot of good symposiums or you had some papers, it seems like we shuffled things around just a little bit. for the
Right.
acceptance.
No, that's,
But I think we had a plan going into it though.
yeah, no, I think that's right. Yeah, we can move around. I mean, the other thing that seems to be catching more press now as well is just the upcoming farm bill, you know, I mean, I mean, you think about it, it's distant, but I mean, really all the thought that goes into any changes and everything happens, you know, at least a year kind of before that, and that's 23, you know, so that's right around the corner as well, too.
I think the other thing is with all these farm stress programs going on, and I think some of those are more financial in nature in states, but I think other states, they're not very financial in nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with farm stress has to do with ag land. I mean, in Arizona, there's no farm stress anymore because real estate's selling really good now again, you know, I mean, probably same here in most of the West, you know, I mean, it's like.
Oh, let me see if I can find those numbers that they were telling me from Midwest. Just, I think topping out at 19,000 an acre in Illinois.
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me, when I first took my farm management class, Steve Dauber said, went through all and said, okay, now the return here is 0, but what's the one thing we're missing? And he goes, well, land appreciation, right? He says, I can only remember 1 or 2 years where my salary has kept up with the increase in land prices. And here now, you know, almost 35, 40 years later, it's basically the same thing. I mean, you know, a lot of the ag producers are still kind of cash poor, but yet when you look at their appreciation in terms of land values, that puts their balance sheet in pretty good shape. I mean, I'm, you know, nobody's salaries are really keeping up with the appreciation of land value, you know, so.
So I think it was Illinois. It's peaked at 19,000 an acre. Historically, it's been around 8,000, you know, with some, you know,
Right, no,
changes and
it's
stuff.
way, yeah,
And so their land values, part of that is because of the inflation hedge. And so people outside of ag, you know what I mean? They're using with the indications of inflation on the horizon. They're buying more land values even at these higher rates to hedge against what they're perceiving as inflation.
Right, but I mean, the land in Arizona is selling for $100,000 an acre, you know, for building, you know, so I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, you know, so it's like, I mean, they're not looking at putting it into ag, they're looking at putting houses on it, you know, or,
Yeah, well, we had that too in Utah and stuff,
yeah.
but I was surprised just that the farmland value itself was going up to 19,000. And
But-
doubling just from a farmland value side because
Yeah.
of some of the other stuff. I thought that was interesting.
But there's so much value though being bid up. I mean, it's even just like an Arizona ranch. I mean, there's very little private land or anything, but there's so many people in the Phoenix area and just a small percentage of them have a lot of money. And there's just so few ranches around that, you know, there's this whole thing, oh, they want to have a ranch, you know, so, you know, they'll drop 10 million buy a ranch, you know.
And I think that
It
bleeds
doesn't
into
have
the,
anything really to do with the value of the productivity of livestock for the most part. It's just kind of well, they think it'd be a great for the family if they had a,
Gentleman farmer.
yeah,
kind of.
gentleman's kind of, I mean,
well, I think with these other real estate companies though, buying more of the land and less land being owned by people running, you know, actually producing on it themselves. I think that comes with some different implications. You know what I mean? If, you know, we're control of the land, you're separating it a lot more, the leasing of the land versus ownership of the land. And so I think there's some interesting things there. And I think that's a trend across the US, not just here.
yeah, no, I think it is, yeah. I mean, I think there was kind of an argument there for a while that, well, a lot of this land was just being bid up by people being able to work anywhere, you know. I don't know that that's as much the case, but there's maybe some of that still going on in terms of you can have your hobby farm in Iowa and then still be employed by Facebook or whatever, you know, as a programmer or whatever, you know, so.
Yeah, I've seen, or I've heard, not seen, a lot of like trust funds, hedge funds buying up ag land.
Yeah.
Some of them not US owned. And partly that's for the water and partly the inflation hedge is what I've heard.
Yeah.
I was just mentioning, how about an in-depth look at the conservation strategies, you know, I mean, like you said, who's funding this trust? How successful are they, you know, across the West? Or, I mean, what are the drivers for what success, or how is success measured, you know? I mean,
Well, I know that like in Western New Mexico and even little Eastern Arizona and even into Texas, and then, I mean, Bezos, he bought up a whole bunch of land. And I think, you know, a lot of it is partly just the inflation hedge or tax hedge, you know, to have assets that are not maybe as traceable as like, you know, your stock going up or, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons I think people are buying land, and maybe partly because there's no more land to be made, you know, so,
they don't make any more.
yeah. You know, so,
Definitely could rally some good discussions. Who owns our farmland and why?
yeah, no, that's true.
It's
That could be a good thing, yeah, who owns our farmland and why, yeah.
untapped or unexplored subject.
Especially in the West, you know. What was it? I mean, just in the headlines the other day, what was it? You know, the Koch brothers sold their ranch they had in Montana, yeah, down by the Yellowstone area for what, 120 million or something to Murdoch, you know. Or maybe it was 200 million. That's the largest, I think, ever or something. Yeah, it was a ton of money, but it's like, there's no way you could ever justify that in terms of on the cattle that it produces, or even bringing in tourists or anything, but man, I guess if you've got that kind of money, that's kind of one way you can spend your money to have something that nobody else has, I guess.
Well, with
Just a playground to go to or something.
Well, a status symbol, Yellowstone's the hottest TV series out there right now. Everybody wants to watch it. So like bragging rights, yeah, I own a piece of land next to Yellowstone. I'm just, you got that kind of money, you get to do that kind of stuff, right?
The other thing that I've wondered about, but I don't know if it's a topic for next summer, I think that the meat supply chain, as far as like supply chain issues, and that's become, more relevant, but I think the meat one got the most funding from some of the federal policies and stuff that got put out there. But also, I've heard of so many new meat packing or processing plants both going in, and I wonder if we're going to get way overbuilt in the near future if they all come online.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that I just had a discussion with Sam Garcia on this the other day, and he was like, he thought, there's like, I think 3 or 4 going in Arizona, and he said, yeah, I mean, at least 75% of them are not going to make it, but then I guess the question is, if somebody actually builds it, then, if somebody can buy it for free, basically, can they make it? I think that's the question. It's unclear to me that some of them can, but I think most of them can probably make it if they get it cheap enough, but yeah.
I know that's for myself and 2 other extension educators in the state have been putting a lot of our efforts. We got a grant to get a mobile slaughter trailer and getting that up. And we've had so much interest. I've done the budgets, the only budgets I've done this last year have been for slaughter and processing facilities. Luckily, the 2 that I enjoyed the most were people that were already in the custom area, we're trying to convert to USDA. And like that was our presentation we did at IAC last week was on that, and there was a lot of interest. So I think that's definitely a topic that we could talk about for the summer.
It's going to be easy to get speakers for something like that. I think that also people don't understand, with some of the bills that were proposed federally too, the differences from state to state, and some of the state inspection versus federal inspection, federal state inspection, state federal inspection, you know what I mean, are 2 different things.
And then there's also that, what is it,
Talmadge-Aiken. And so I think there's, stuff from that standpoint. There's some of the policies, wanting to increase the ability to sell across state lines with state inspection. But some of the plants that I've heard going in are not small. They're like the size of some of the regional, like JBS type plants and stuff.
Ooh.
And so I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, if they have enough scale and modern processing, they can possibly make a dent in the market, make it more competitive. Yeah.
And then I don't know if it went anywhere, but that one in Idaho was saying like if they committed certain things, then like the producers could buy into a part of it, and then they would get like so much capacity that they could, have so many animals that they sell to it or go through it, every year or something. I don't know the details on it, but I just thought that there's some more, I think, happening in Idaho than happening in Utah, but I don't know all the details. I don't know if you've heard anything, Pat, about some of the stuff there.
Well, I've seen construction happening. I don't know the exact details. But yeah, just north of Twin Falls in Jerome County, looks like a pretty big sizable plant. I don't know how many cattle they're expecting to process there, but it's not small and it looks big, and they've already started construction on it. So I don't know about where else. I think there is more.
Is that
Hernan might know, I don't know.
Yes, so there's one also in Burley that has been expanding. But that one was in place before COVID. But now they're expanding, and also in Kuna, it's going full, full steam. So.
Yeah, I thought that Melaleuca, the guys behind Melaleuca, they were gonna, the balls, I thought he was gonna fund one of them, but I can't remember what name it's going under or any details.
So I wonder, would it be possible to get some of the people that are behind this to present at
Yeah, we could,
this summer?
Yeah,
Or,
I mean-
at least one of the managers or something that has kind of an idea. I don't know how much they're willing to share, but I
yeah,
mean, if
right.
they're already far along in the construction, it seems like they could give a pretty good thing in terms of kind of what their marketing plans are, what kind of capacity they're having,
Yeah.
and because, I mean, they've obviously done some analysis of putting millions of dollars in
Well,
it.
the other thing is where we had the federal programs that are doing cost shares on the builds of these things and having money and stuff, that I think is also decreasing the cost just for people to get into it. And like you said, Russ, you know what I mean? The initial cost is, a big factor. But I think though, people in the right place at the right time to have capacity during the last couple of years did really well with processing. And so I think some of the plans are probably assuming that continues, you know what I mean, with what they've done now. But another interesting thing is that Utah was able, when COVID hit in June of 2020, got special permission to allow some of the state inspected facilities with certain conditions met to be able to sell in retail establishments in Utah. So sell into grocery stores. A custom exempt plant could sell into grocery stores in Utah for like a 6-month period. And so 2 of those grocery stores or 2 of the 8 that were eligible took them up on it. The other ones said they were so booked out anyway, they didn't need any more. But one of them was out in Vernal. And so they started selling to the grocery store there. And I believe that was so successful that they're going to continue. They were seeking USDA certifications so that they could continue, or inspections, so they can continue to do it. I'll have to find out more details, but I do think the area of meat processing is probably more than some of the other supply chain stuff is been prominent.
One of the other issues there that's part of all this is that the labor issue is still one of the biggest issues, even in the current plants, is the reason they aren't really being able to run and push quite as much other than slow change speeds due to COVID, was they're having trouble with labor, particularly on the processing side. And then the other thing on new plants, because of the way the industry is so concentrated, most all the new plants need to have a way to markets into a specialty market or have some sort of a niche that they're going to be going into, because we're going to be going down in the cattle numbers in about 2 years when most of these come online. So they need some way to compete, because the big guys will push them out pretty quick out of, as you said there.
Yeah.
And then I know that there's been some stuff going on with the H2A, and that's related to the labor too. And right now, I think they've got a comment period open on how they're calculating the H2A. And I don't really understand it, but another guy on my tax call was on that was diving deep on it. And something about the farm labor survey, that they changed the methodology and how they're doing that survey. And so I think that they don't really have enough responses to get a good handle. And they used to ask, like, what was the piece rate, what any bonuses, what was your flat rate, and then they added all those up to say what your gross is. Then this last year, I think they just asked what the gross was. But if you don't get enough responses, then you have to go to like the national, you use the county average, but then if not, you use the state, and if not, then you use the federal. But if they drive and operate a vehicle or a piece of equipment for like more than 5 days, then you have to use the national rate for truckers, for like long haul truckers, instead of the farm wage rate. So they said like the custom harvesting crews, the H2A rate for this next year is going to go up by a lot more than the other rates. So I don't know, that was just, I thought another thing that's going on, but I don't know if it rates, having something at the summer meetings for that. But I think H2A as part of the ag labor issues, a subcomponent of that, I think. But labor, I think, is a big issue, whether it's meat supply or other things. I think labor is a huge issue.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in some ways because you think of like, a meatpacking plant, COVID's going to raise all kinds of havoc. And then like the trucking industry, you think, they're almost, a lot of these, they're just in the truck by themselves, but yet the labor there has been a huge problem as well, So, it's, I don't know. Because I've heard the rates for trucking, are just really high,
There's a shortage.
They
of
make
truck-
more than professors,
Yeah, there's a shortage.
Yeah,
There's a huge.
nobody
shortage of
wants
truck.
to.
Yeah, so if the H2A workers and you operate equipment for more than 5 days, and then that's the rate that they use, that would be a significant change. But like I said, I don't really play in that field. And so he was telling me some of the details, but they were flying over my head. So I think Jeff Turnell was on that call too. And so he was gonna, I think, try to get like a short, like kind of 1-page things or update or something from him that he could send out. So I'll see if that's available or Jeff gets that, then I'll have him forward it to the group.
So, we've got several issues here. I guess we've got, estate transfers, and then it's kind of mentioned farm stress, and then also kind of land ownership, as well as, supply chain issues and labor issues. I guess we should probably need to pick a couple topics to kind of narrow down for like a symposium, I would say.
Here, let me throw one more in the mix, just because when Ruby was talking, it made me realize something. 5 years ago in this meeting, it was all about, agritourism was a hot topic. And I'm thinking of those people who kind of turned their focus to agritourism at that time. Are they dumped? Are they, everything goes south for them these last 2 years? So I don't know, it's just.
Yeah.
Some of them, it went really good because farmers market sales and CSA sales and all of those types of things have been through the roof the last couple of years.
Oh, good.
And so it kind of depends on the mix of what they were doing and what their operations are. But
even like the bed and breakfast kind of thing, I think have done fairly well because people have kind of shifted their vacations more to there
Oh,
from,
good.
Disneyland or whatever,
Okay, not a hot topic then.
Right,
Cool.
but I don't know, but I guess I don't know for sure how everybody's looking at it.
I'm sure there were pockets because I don't know how the different states rules what they allowed, but like California, I don't know if, there were exemptions and some of those operations were allowed to continue or not. But in general, if they were allowed to operate, I think they've done all right. I don't know if somebody else has something on that.
Yeah, so a lot of them did start doing e-commerce sales. They started packing stuff on farm for pickup by people. A lot of that. In California, they weren't allowed indoors until actually October. So that was quite a while. And again, they just worked around it and pivoted, honestly. But yeah, I think even on some on-farm sales went up, that a lot of people put in farm stands. They started doing online sales like a grocery store, but then people would come pick up at the farm or they would deliver it. There was a lot of changes. Those hosting specific activities, I don't know as much about that, but most of the agritourism farms that I'm aware of are still going, still doing fine. So I'm not sure the details of that.
That might be something to even have look for like a stop on the tour with maybe, you know? If we had an operation. How
We,
how they
Mike,
pivoted,
It's made it, yeah.
how they pivoted during the pandemic, because I know some in Arizona, yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, different tour, but tomorrow, Mike Milan, one of the growers we're gonna visit, it's a significantly large operation, but in response to COVID, they saw an opportunity to set up a farm stand as part of, to expand their business operation. So we may want to ask them tomorrow about that as well. And there are several farms here that were somehow involved with ag tourism who really expanded their business model to more direct sales, you know, whether delivery, the traditional CSA model or box deliveries, but really shifted and now they are doing a lot of business that way and stayed doing with it.
Yeah, I also saw some things where like people that, you know, they were come to like pet the goat or whatever with part of their ag tourism. They were paying, people were paying to have the goat attend their Zoom meetings.
All right.
So I think our entrepreneurs are, they find ways.
Yeah, actually, there was a llama. There was a llama Zoom meeting too. Yeah. You know, Civil Eats magazine on food and policy has a lot of great articles. Might be something to think about for a good idea. I think they did an article on the having animals attend your Zoom meetings.
What magazine
Which
is that,
magazine?
Linda?
What's that?
Which magazine?
Civil Eats.
Civil
Eats.
Civil Eats. And they've had quite a few articles on kind of the growing meat processing movement. I really like their stuff. This is the issue. This is what's going on without a lot of opinion. And they covered a wide range. A lot of that they were really, I started noticing when COVID hit and they started covering a lot of things regarding changes in demand and local foods issues, and great resource.
There's some other issues, like you talked about the mobile slaughter in California. We thought the biggest problem would be getting inspection. The biggest problem was basically the wastewater county regulations. That's put the kibosh on it in a number of counties.
I understand that because that was a like easy peasy in Lincoln County to the north of us. Clark County, the only way I think that we're going to solve that issue is we have a livestock, Las Vegas Livestock, who is our pig farmer, and his facility is next to the dump. So that's probably our only place that Clark County would even consider allowing something like that. So yeah, you're right. It's the regulatory issues, the offal, the disposal.
10 years ago.
So Shannon, one of the places I was thinking of in Santa Fe was that La Montanita.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. I knew that's what you're talking about.
I mean, that's been around for a long time, but I'd be curious to see how COVID kind of impacted them and, you know, what their responses was, especially for some of the local producers and then the consumers, yeah.
You know, and I was just saying,
What's it called?
Sorry. Following
Okay.
up from that, Russ, we funded a project. I'm really interested in them, New Mexico Community Capital,
Oh, really?
and working on local food issues.
Oh, really?
And They might be.
That could be a good contact too. Great, okay. So I think there's some possibilities on the tour where we may be able to integrate some of the ideas, especially with regards to how people maybe responded to COVID, how they pivoted there maybe. So I guess if we were to just choose a couple topics, I mean, what would come to the top? I mean, with the estate transfers, who do you have in mind there as speakers, or do we have anybody in mind? Do you, Ruby, have anybody in mind with the estate transfer?
No, and I don't know if we need that or not. But I just wondered if that's going on in lots of places, I think we all have some curriculum that we've used in our states for stuff like that. But I wondered if there was a reason to do like, if we went back and wanted like a commonality of doing some curriculum together or something, and I don't know what the funding source would be. I just thought that might be a topic to put some stuff, you know what I mean, kind of together jointly if multiple people were working on it.
What are the issues though that things have changed in the last few years as opposed to it's just always a problem?
Well, yeah, but it has
Instead of
changed in the
trying-
sense that it used to be you could have essentially about 22 million and avoid most of the federal
Right.
tax, but now that's moved down to, I think it's still not quite defined, but it's
Well,
somewhere around
that's-
like 4 or 5 million.
Right, so I think Biden, I was in a talk, and Ruby, I think this is a good topic, because I was in a talk by some folks from succession planning, talking about how the new administration wants to do it at 5 million.
Yeah.
right?
No, the new administration wanted to go down to a million. And
Right,
so
right,
when my
yeah.
tax group was meeting last May and June over Zoom, we had a meeting with people from, not like Biden or anything, but somebody from the White House, a little bit lower level. We had meetings with the Senate Ag, the Democrat Ag, the the Republic, they couldn't meet together. So we had a meeting with the Republican side and the Democrat side for the House, the Senate Ag committees and the House Ag committees and, you know, everything else and stuff. But I believe that when Trump changed the Tax Act stuff, they did it until to sunset at the 26th, you know, so 2026, it sunsets. And so it reverts back to older law. And so Biden wanted to take the 20 million and bring it back down to $1 million, which was kind of nuts because that would, I mean, a lot of people's houses in a lot of states, you know what I mean, would be now a taxable thing. And then it wasn't just bringing it down to there, but then the rates and how much was exempt and stuff was also, you quickly got up to a really high rate. And so but he said, I'm going to hold farms. Farms would not have to do it, but that wasn't true because farms would not have to do it as long as a family member continued to farm the land. But there's no definition in the IRS code for family member other than a parent or a child. So it would be like the children of the grandparents, but a son-in-law probably not. And then anytime it was like a sale would happen, you would go back and pay all of those estate taxes because that would trigger it. So it would waive the estate taxes until you had a sell. But then if you have a divorce and you have to divide that up, does that trigger it? You know what I mean? It was just really, it was probably going to hit most farmers. But I believe that they've taken the estate tax stuff out of the Build Back Better plan. And it's because it's going to sunset in 2026 anyway. So
But you know, California just passed that their Prop 19 this last year. So if it's not a family member, then they have this California state taxes. So that's,
yeah,
now they're trying to clean that up in the legislature because it was so unclear, as you just pointed out. I guess my point is, I think this is so good that we can talk about it, but it's not, we don't know what we're talking about yet.
Yeah, these were folks from Cooper Norman, tax experts.
yeah. Well, and I think that my sources for the tax stuff are probably as good, you know, for like the broad policy stuff, it's probably as good, you know what I mean, as a lot of those things. But yeah, so you don't know at this point where things are going to go. And then if inflation keeps going, you know what I mean? We also, the other thing that Biden's plan, the Build Back Better, originally had in there is that you also, when you went through an estate, you brought everything up to current market values. So you cleaned up what was there in the past. So everything coming out of the estate had a basis of basically the value that it went through the estate at. But in addition to making the exemption 1 million, by the Build Back Better plan also had in there that they were going to get rid of the step up in basis. And so you would transfer and have carryover basis for whatever the basis was that you could prove going into the state. That's what the basis would be coming out of it.
That
and stuff. So
that'd been a huge change, but that didn't happen, right?
No, and so I think as far as so if those things had been in Build Back Better, we would have been huge, you know what I mean? Extension education, you know, because those are just so sweeping changes. But I believe that they've backed off on that and took the estate stuff back out. But it was going to be a real mess. And so, because the problem is if you have carryover basis, then you can have things where you're going back 100 years trying to find, because there was no sale outside of an estate, that you're trying to figure out what the basis was. And it's just a nightmare. So cleaning things up as they go through an estate is really good. But yeah, so I think there's some stuff like that. We can talk about that, but they said that it wasn't. So I guess if we see Build Back Better has some estate tax stuff in it, then we can, you know, do some stuff from there or talk about what's being talked about with the sunset, you know what I mean, and stuff. But I think with this land values and stuff, I think that there's some stuff maybe to combine those two.
That's possible, yeah. I mean, if we had somewhere to maybe talk about land ownership and land values, because I mean, that's driving a lot of the estate worries, you know.
I think the estate stuff is two-sided. One is the tax stuff and the land values, and I think those are really closely tied.
Yeah.
The other one, though, is the land values and the human stuff, because getting people already at the table and then the non-farming heirs versus farming heirs versus other heirs. How do we treat people? How do we get them to communicate? How do we put our plan together? I think all of that, they said, is where people are stumbling as much as anything. And Kinda's on here. So several years ago, we did those little case studies about like how different families were dealing with some of those issues. I just kind of wondered if we ought to circulate some of that again or share some common resources with kind of what we're doing with estate planning or something, or if there's needs.
Yeah, those pamphlets, I think 10 case studies, English and Spanish are still up on our marketing committee website. And I still have some hard copies. Many others probably do too, but we could certainly take the PDFs of those and send them out, or maybe even package it. I haven't read them lately though, and I don't remember all of them. I don't know how appropriate they'd be, but we do have that we did as a group.
I mean, I think what would be good though, to bring in some of the current, I guess, maybe even if it's not changes, but likely changes, or what happens.
I think that maybe just, I think you could have,
or not.
if you had like a symposium, you could have like 20 minutes or so just explaining what step up in basis is, you know, what carryover basis is, what portability is, what the exemption is, you know. So when you look at a tax plan or the taxes, these are the like 5 elements you're looking for and how they play together, and where they are now, where they're going to sunset in 2026.
Right. I think that would be, you know, how they were going to sunset, how the other proposed changes would impact things as well. Yeah.
And then if you combine that with another speaker on that symposium that talks about what's going on with our land values, and then from a farm management perspective, you know, then somebody, maybe the third speaker from a farm management perspective, where does this leave us, right?
Right. Okay. No, I think that would be a well attended symposium myself, but I don't know, maybe I'd be wrong. I don't.
Russ, can I propose one more topic? Do you mind?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know Frank Ward, but I don't know if you all know him, but he has a nice paper in the Journal of Hydrology from 2014. I was just thinking like, it'd be nice to maybe think about a local person to be, for like an invited symposium. So the paper is on economic impacts on irrigated agriculture of water conservation programs in drought. And he was the sole author of that paper. So yeah, just any kind of, you know, given the drought topic, and I don't know if Kinda has moved forward with any research on that. But I was just thinking maybe if you invite Frank to discuss either this paper, any follow-on, and then what kind of implications he's seeing as the current drought And then maybe some extension person too, about whether they use this research to provide any kinds of programming. That's the idea.
No, it's true with these droughts being more prolonged. I mean, the ground hydrology, I think, is one of the things that is a little bit more unknown and definitely on the radar, I think, of a lot of people.
The policy implications.
Yeah, there are, yeah, that's because, I mean, areas that used to be, even like in Georgia and whatnot, where it used to be, groundwater, no problem. Now there's starting to be problems.
Yeah, and the current drought, the first time ever, the California Department of Water Resources is suing us to take away the water rights of people that had, developed the systems. We call it the pre-1914
Wow.
water users. So this is
So that's
a big,
happened
a
actually?
big deal.
So that has actually happened where
That's
they've
actually happening right now, yeah.
really? Yeah, see, I mean, that would be, I think, of interest as well. I'm not up to speed on everything. I didn't
I don't
realize
know
there were
enough about
people
it. I
having
just
their
wanna
water
read
rights
the
taken
paper.
away.
Yeah.
So how are they legally getting their water rights removed?
It's such an emergency, the governor, that they can all declare that they have to do it because it's a state emergency or something.
Oh, really? So the state emergency is,
Some sort or something. And I'm not telling it to you right, because I don't know the details well enough.
yeah. But the whole idea is, I guess, though, did they lose their water rights or is it temporary?
I
Or,
think it's not the rights. They lose 40. Does anybody else in California read that? 40% of their water, I think, is the way they try to do it right now. These are the people that own the system, put in the systems, develop the system. They own all the right, all the pieces and bits. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the legal side of water and drought and everything is something I think we all need to be more aware of. And, that's something
I
that
don't know
could
if
go.
I get into the legal side so much as, so what are the implications to agriculture type of
Yeah.
policy?
So I have 3 papers now on, well, 2 on implications based upon some input-output modeling as far as economic impacts to drought. And then 1 Ruby and I have on producer preferences and adoption of drought management strategies. 2 have been published, 1 is R&R. So I do have that stuff. I still don't feel like I'm an expert on drought or drought management. Also, Ryan Larson is doing some work now on some tools for drought management decision-making. And I believe he has a graduate student working on that as well. So those are things we're doing, we could possibly present on.
So definitely, I mean, I think in terms of another symposium topic, I mean, we have kind of the or the supply chain and labor issue, but also the whole water and drought could be another one as well. So I guess, I mean, I see there being at least 3 strong possibilities. I mean, the state transfers, kind of the ag labor, some of the supply chain issues, especially with the meat packing. And what's the kind of the impact of all these smaller plants? Are they going to make it or not? In addition to that, probably some things with regards to water, the hydrology of our water in the West in particular, as well with drought and some of these legal ramifications of drought emergency, I guess. Yeah.
So from the article on the LA Times, it said most farmers across the state who rely on the Central Valley Project, the nearly 24 dams that make up the federal water are getting 5% or less of their usual water supply. It's the state water board's most recently emergency order barred thousands of farmers, landowners, and others from diverting water from the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta watershed that goes from Fresno to Oregon. Some of them had rights predating 1914. The State Water Resources Control Board, they sued over it.
But now that we've had these streams, river streams coming in there, they'll fill up all these reservoirs in California, right? We'll see, huh?
Yeah, but I think it's a good point, the drought and that Frank Ward is there in New
I
Mexico,
agree.
so and you know, Kinda and Ryan and folks have some work done there. I think it's spot on.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, it's just my 2 cents. The State Water Resources Control Board also told the Bureau of Reclamation that it violated its requirements to keep water flowing through the watershed because of the Chinook salmon. So they said they're gonna have a death rate of 80% of those.
So I guess the question come up was, do we have somebody that would be willing to kind of oversee, maybe trying to put together a symposium, I guess, in, you know, these areas? You know, one like with the water, and the drought, all that, the drought tools and hydrology, as well as the labor, the eggs, you know, with the meat supply chain and everything, as well as maybe with the estate transfers. I mean, is there anybody be willing to work on putting together some, you know, I guess, ask around for potential speakers, and, you know, we can just put together symposia and submit it, you know? Yeah.
I can do the estate one if it's more of that tax. And I think, and the only one that I need to ask around, I think somebody that could really talk about land values in the West. Because I have people that are monitoring those in the Midwest, but I don't know if I know that I'm not good at knowing what's going on with our land values in the West exactly. And I don't know if I know of anybody that does. But as far as like the other two topics, I can get people for that.
Aren't you gonna have to narrow it down to 2, or are you gonna have 3?
No, I said if you had like 3 parts of that one, I can get somebody to talk about the,
3 symposium?
Yeah, because,
Out of the 5.
yeah, because that would be out of the 5. We typically only have 2 that are like selected.
But in Coeur d'Alene, we had 3.
We have 3, yeah.
Yeah, we had 3 symposia, yeah.
Yeah, so I can.
We did? I thought we
Yeah.
had 2.
No, there was just
No, we had
2 out of were selected
Oh, okay.
papers submitted, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
we had
that,
3.
that could be one. And then what about with regards to the water and stuff? Do you want to do that, Pat, or no? I don't know.
I can help. I mean, it would probably be more
Oh, you would
strategic.
do that, or I
if
don't-
Someone who knows Frank Ward could lead that. I mean, I would definitely help somebody, but I think as an introduction, if someone knows Frank, because I think it would be great if, since he's in New Mexico, as like a local speaker.
Yeah.
Well, Ruby and I were on a regional committee for water and drought management. Frank was on that too. My thing is I will not be at the WAA meeting. I'm going to be in Alaska. I could maybe possibly come in on Zoom or something like that. So I don't think I should be in charge of organizing and all that, because if something goes wrong and things need to be done at the last minute, I won't be there to handle it.
I can try though. I mean, I'm not afraid
I
to
would
reach out.
contact Ryan Larson, Pat, because he's also, he started a prices and precip blog that they were doing that kind of went over some of the drought stuff and then also outlook stuff and kind of combined.
Yeah, so it's a podcast. Anna's doing the drought stuff and she's going to Clemson and we'll have an extension appointment. But yeah, I think Ryan could be a good person to help put it together.
Okay.
And I thought some of the tools that he was looking at is like when we were telling people how to like make decisions for a drought, like for cattle and stuff, it's not just that year. And so people usually like leave them, you know, get their body condition too far low. And so they're only thinking about that year. If we can just kind of keep them on summer range and keep them alive, then we'll be okay. But the problem is when their body condition goes down, they don't breed back. And so I think that they were trying to do some stuff about looking at those multi-year effects, like in those range conditions and different things like that, bringing that into the decision-making. But I don't know how far along he is on that, but it'd be worth an email and just maybe setting up a Zoom and just talking to him or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start with Ryan, reaching out to Ryan and sharing some ideas, see if he knows.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I think the goal here would be to kind of get a symposia submitted, you know, to the WAEA on system, you know, for the WEC session. And, you know,
I can explore the one about the meat packer.
okay, Hernan,
So
you want to do
I
that? Because I could help on that too. If you
Yeah,
wanted or
and
something.
I
There's
mean-
probably several, you know,
Yeah.
Jim,
and-
Carol.
And talk to my beef
Yeah.
colleague specialists there to see
Okay.
if we can get a good speaker.
Sure,
I
you
mean,
want to?
If you want somebody on that to potentially, I don't know if they would go or not because they're not one of our AggieCon members, but I've got somebody in Utah that I did our feasibility study that we did for a very baby packing plant a year ago that did all the regulation side of that. And she is good about talking about like the different programs that are available in the different states and some of that
Right.
type of stuff if you want something.
Thanks, Ruby.
Oh, but this would be great because I mean, we want to make sure we have enough things submitted because if we don't have our slots filled, that's going to be a bigger challenge.
Yeah,
for-
it wouldn't be
for-
good.
For the
It
WEC,
wouldn't look
yeah. So
good.
this will hopefully at least ensure that we have a minimum number of slots there.
Meat, water, land.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so Ruby, if you can work on the state and then Hernan on the meat with the supply chain
We'll
and
work together.
Patrick, yeah, with Ryan. And we can work together on.
Does anybody know anybody that would know stuff about what land values in the West are doing? That's not really like a good data set that I think that is available for my, you know what I mean?
It's hit and miss here and there, I think. I mean, there's some farm management with rural appraisers, you know, put together here and there, but yeah, I mean, the NAS data is pretty limited, really, yeah.
So I think Kate Fuller might have some
Yeah, she
data.
was on rentals, she was looking at that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kate might be the best
yeah.
source.
Okay.
I don't think she has survey
I
data
don't
though,
think
because
has
she and I have
either, yeah.
discussed land values before. The guy who you mentioned at Colorado State, I think I've been referred to him before, but I
Jeff
forgot his
Trinnell?
name. Yes,
Okay.
I think he's probably maybe more advanced with regard to his own data sets. Possibly. I would investigate with him what he's doing.
Okay. Well, I think this has been good. Been able to get some topics identified here and as well for the tour. I think if we can integrate some of the pivoting on the COVID there, I think that would be a good spot for that. So I guess why don't we take a little break now, maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and hear what a lot of the cooperative extension here in San Diego has going on.
Yeah. Some of those guys in cattle packs have been watching that pretty well, so.
You're talking about the packing, smaller
Yeah,
packers.
yeah, it really.
Tell us about San Diego here. And thanks, yeah, again, to Romero for everything you put together on it, the whole day and the tour and everything. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow as well. So. Take it away, Romero. We'll get
I would say the tour part, some of the growers that in the past have been really receptive to letting people visit. I guess they've changed things around and a couple of them mentioned they are kind of adopting new business models and that they don't feel like ready to let the world know what they're doing. So they're getting more cautious about it. But we should be a fun day tomorrow.
So can the people on Zoom see the screen overview of San Diego County?
I don't think there's anybody left back there.
They back yet? No.
Anybody there?
I thought Patrick was still on.
Yeah, Pat was.
Oh, yeah, Heidi's on. Can they see? Or no, we don't know.
We can see it.
Okay, great.
Okay, great.
Oh,
Are we good, Jan? As good as we can get. Recording on.
mhm.
Okay, well, welcome to San Diego, guys. We order great day for you today and we won't charge you for it, so. Consider that the special.
Oh,
House-
you hear you
the
gotta
House
pay.
special. Hopefully weather will cooperate with us tomorrow too, and we'll have a fun day at the visits we're gonna go. What I intend to do here is kind of give you a good, brief overview of San Diego County Ag, and so that you get a better idea of what the clientele and then what issues we deal with. And then our colleague Jan Gonzalez and Jerry Spinelli will expand on some of these. We'll dig a little bit deeper into some of the issues that come up here. So talk about San Diego County Ag. We did a needs assessment way back in 2018, kind of touched on some of those issues that we picked up there. Some challenges to local farmers, assets, opportunities. I forgot to include there a couple projects that Jan and I have been working on over the past few years. And yeah, and some comments that we'll discuss. So San Diego County, 4,200 square miles and 224,000 acres in agricultural production. As you know, we are the southernmost county in the US on the western side. We had great weather, a few occasional days that is not the case, but for the most part, we have great weather that is described as the most Mediterranean weather in the US. I mean, we grow crops year round. There is hardly any seasonality here, although that is impacted depending on where you are in the county. I mean, how far inland you are. Very urbanized, fifth most populous county in the US, and we also have the 17th largest agricultural economy. For the most part, we tend to have a very affluent and an educated customer base, although that there are significant pockets of where food access is an issue, especially in the inner city, San Diego County, and some of the largest cities, I would say, have some issues with food access. Topography is quite diverse, and that is a challenge, but at the same time, it's sort of an opportunity because there are some cultivated lands in San Diego that will never be developed because of the topography. So if we could get water to those hilly farms, I think we could have agriculture for a long time. A lot of microclimates resulting in over 30 types of vegetation communities from the highest point in Mount Laguna to the coast in San Diego County. And there is a grading of things that you can grow as you go up in elevation and as you go inland from in an eastern direction as well. So year-round production, 200 plus crops grown commercially. And if you talk to some of Jerry clientele, they'll tell you that if you break down all these floricultural crops by individual crop, the number explodes to over 2,000 if you treat each individual item as a crop. But we usually refer to them as groups, you know, and that's how we treat some of the crops we grow. Agriculture, we grow a large number of high-value crops, and we have 44 crops that are valued at more than 1 million per year in total value, highest dollar value per acre in the state. We rank prominently in a number of categories, #1 nationally in the state in nursery, floriculture, and avocados. 5th largest industry behind defense, manufacturing, tourism, and biotech. And the tourism and the biotech have somewhat of a connection to agriculture. So there are some relationship there and opportunities that our local growers can capitalize on. Water is by far the most expensive agricultural, well, I would probably labor is, but it's relative. Water is the most expensive in the US, and I would say perhaps the most expensive agricultural water in the world. if you talk to growers, one of the growers we're going to visit tomorrow, they argue that the cost to them is about $2,000 an acre foot. These prices are based on San Diego Water Authority prices, the rate that they approve countywide. But we have about 25 irrigation districts, and each one have a different pricing systems or rebates depending on location and what mix of water they get. There are a number of factors that sort of determine the final price to growers. Land is expensive, again, driven by real estate value like everywhere else. Our soils are poor, you know, from an agronomic perspective. We farm decomposed granite, which is pretty inert, which has its advantages because you can improve it, you know, and kind of customize your soil media to grow whatever crop you want, but very low fertility, natural fertility in our soils. Yeah, so one interesting factor, a lot of realtors or real estate developers are significantly large landlords in San Diego County. They've speculated on land, they buy it, they used to use agriculture as a way to get around some grading and permits to develop this land, and then they would make it available for, say, nursery crops, container growing type operations, and even some row crop growing or vegetable growing. So in terms of major, these highlights come from the county report, 2020 annual agricultural crop report and statistics by the San Diego County Department of Ag. 70% of our value comes from, laser works here. Oh, here. From nursery and cut flowers, and that has been the growing segment of the industry that drives growth. Since I've been here, it's gone from late, you know, from high 50s to what it is now as a component of our industry.
Do you, is California like Nevada, Clark County, part of that is because it's, is it because of the high value and or I know a lot of people, I advise them if they're going to grow something, not to grow products that could potentially be impacted by health departments and their regulation in here.
There is some of that. A lot of it has to do with the weather. I mean, what we're seeing is, especially in this sector here, San Diego floricultural and nursery industry has been always seen as a sort of a high-tech industry. However, a lot of that production occur in the coastal plains, and our greenhouses used to be enclosures. I mean, they used to be like a plastic houses without heating or cooling components. Just was more of an exclusion than a controlled
Like a
environment
house,
type environment. However, the residential development pressure on those coastal plain was the highest. And so as these lands and farms, some of the largest floricultural crops, I mean, when San Diego used to be called the poinsettia capital of the US, the rose capital of the US, the carnation capital of the US, all those industries have pretty much gone. I mean, they've disappeared. I mean, the carnations and the roses have disappeared. Poinsettias, commercial growing, the finishing aspect of the crop is still is gone. But the bulk of the biggest contribution of San Diego is still in the Eki family, is the genetics aspect of it. They do a lot of genetics, breeding and genetics. And hopefully tomorrow when we go to Milano, they have what they call a color show at the flower fields, where they have, like, I would say, probably exaggerating, but hundreds of poinsettia varieties on display, where they have people coming in and judge them, where they select whatever is going to go into mass production, say, in the years to come, in future seasons. So a lot of that's, I don't have the exact number, but I've read or heard that 80% of the genetics in poinsettias has its origin in the world, has its origins in San Diego County. So again, anecdotally, I don't have a source to validate that. So
where's the other 20% from?
Probably Europe, I would say. There is a strong connection between San Diego and the Netherlands, for example, and you will see that at the flower fields, a lot of bulbs, growing operations.
But also, I think South America brings flowers like Colombia and others.
Yeah, but they bring a finished product.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's what's happened with the roses, for example. And this is the quote unquote challenges in our jobs. You know, our previous farm advisor that used to work with horticultural crops colleague used to go to Colombia and consult with rose growers in Colombia and Ecuador. So now the roses that we see in the US are pretty much coming from Colombia and Ecuador. So at some point, oh, well, you guys helped develop the industry there, and now they sort of killed our golden goose here. Same thing with carnation, most come from Ecuador. And we're seeing it with avocados as well. I mean, avocados sort of has started here in California. Our advisor started advising people in Mexico where it was native of, but not cultivated as we did here. Then it was Chile, now it's Colombia, now it's Dominican Republic. And you can say, well, we're teaching them how to grow, but at the same time, it is US companies that are doing business in those countries and bringing the product back to the US. So it's kind of a...
Chile's off season.
Well, not necessarily.
Huh?
Not necessarily. The case of blueberries, two cases, blueberries and avocados. Avocados, the biggest consumption day for avocados is the Super Bowl, or used to be, it's still the Super Bowl. In California, the avocado harvest is controlled, or the release date to harvest is based on the oil content of the fruit, solubles, the dry matter content of the fruit. And it used to happen around January 15, just in time for that fruit to ripen by Super Bowl. That used to be the first Sunday or last Sunday in January or first Sunday in February, that kind of stuff. And now what happened is foreign producers, primarily Chileans, realized that they could hold fruit from their late season and release it. We're just right in time for Super Bowl. So it sort of collides with our biggest consumption day, which was the sort of when they opened the gate for growers here to harvest. So that really, that market window that was there for California growers really disappeared. Blueberries.
You need to change the date of the Super Bowl.
Right.
Exactly, exactly.
Delay it into March.
Blueberries is the same scenario, you know, where a lot of, you would say, when we started growing blueberries in San Diego or in California, for that matter, we were trying to hit the market window that was April 15. That was when we had a peak in prices and a deep, you know, valley in supply.
Right.
So without any environmental control, we were hitting that target, you know, with some of the new genetics, Southern High Bush type blueberries. So from then on, it became a race for earliness. So what we were trying to promote earliness in our blueberries, and breeders at the University of Florida and Fall Creek Nursery in Oregon were trying to hit the front end of the market. Chileans or South American producers were trying to push the late season. So what happened, controlled environment, talk about off-season, but controlled environment or a controlled atmosphere storage of blueberries allows them to store them for 90 days. And some of these people argue that they hold them for 90 days and that they taste as fresh as if you pick them yesterday. And we know, I mean, the experience when we saw this, when we see this grayish blue, dull color looking blueberries that you really have to buy hard to break that skin, that's not nearly as tasty as a fresh blueberry that you pick a couple days or the day of when they snap, you know. And I mean, that's the eating experience is just crazy different. So yeah, so they find ways to compete. The seasonality, the overlapping aspect of production between the north-south hemisphere, they find ways to make it disappear. Yeah, to blur it. In terms of total production, we have 1.8 billion total value in 2020. That was an increase of 15 million or 0.8% over the previous year. If you look at acreage, though, we have a 224,549 total acres in agricultural production. And that represents a decline of 10,000 acres or 4.2% from 2019 to 2020. We could argue several things. We could say consolidation. A lot of the small scale growers are more inefficient growers are going out of business and being absorbed by larger farms. In the nursery industry, we've seen a lot of expansion. Some of the larger nurseries have just gotten bigger and bigger, but or more efficient. I mean, we've seen a lot of a controlled environment agriculture as well. As I mentioned, the field production on the coastal plain, where you didn't need any protection, has really exploded into a number of controlled environment facilities in the eastern parts of the county, you know, the valleys around, say, San Marcos, Rainbow, Escondido, Valley Center. We see a lot of production and green in controlled environment.
So is that decrease in acres, is that actual loss of agricultural acres, or somebody just because of drought and water prices leaving their acreage fallow?
I would say it's actual loss of, well, we don't, here the limiting factor is water. So anything you grow, you cut the water off, you stop irrigating, you're gonna have a, you know,
Dead field.
yeah, dead field. So it's a combination of both. I would say when non-profitable, they just stop producing. I mean, and as you drive around San Diego, you will see cemeteries of orchards. You know, dry avocados, dry citrus, dry persimmons. I mean, you name it.
That's why your hay and oats went up so much, just due to value probably, and cost, because of cost of hay and that the market value is so high.
Yeah, and I mean, and we grow some in San Diego, in the eastern valleys, but very, very limited.
Reading
Okay, if we look at the top 10 crops and the groups, you can see that ornamental trees and shrubs have this highest single value, but then again, these are all nursery and floricultural type crops. If you look at the trend, you can see that the value of this has increased over the years and acreage has declined. Tomatoes is a major crop that has really declined in acreage and grown in terms of say pole tomatoes to more like specialty type heirloom tomatoes. A lot of tomatoes grown into in greenhouses or somewhat controlled environment. We see a lot of lettuces also grown in controlled environment as well. And yeah, continue on. The other thing that characterizes San Diego County, we have the largest concentration of organic growers in the state. We have the number of organic farms hovers around 400. You know, from year to year, plus minus 20 farmers, depending on the year. And a lot of these have to do with avocados. We have, as most of your states probably have, like growth management companies that manage, say, a conglomerate, say a packing house is certified as organic, so they certified under their umbrella a whole bunch of small scale growers that will market through them or pack for them, and they will be under their certification or certified by them. And yeah, so that's why the number changes. Citrus is another large crop because of the same reason. You know, we have management companies or packing houses that will control the acreage from a large number of growers. In terms of trade partners, this is again from the Ag Department. We deal with 39 countries. So it is a significant number of trading countries that San Diego County deals with. And Mexico is by far one of our biggest trading partners because of the continuum. I mean, if you look at San Diego County and similar to the Southern Hemisphere connection in the fruit trees, we see that gradient, you know, with vegetable crops. As you drive into Baja, the season starts, say, in Los Cabos, and then starts moving north into San Diego all the way to Salinas. with a huge big stops in between, like the Maniadero Valley in south of Ensenada, the Mexicali Valley, and the Imperial County Yuma region that supply a lot of the winter leafy greens, when we're not growing any in the state. So that also brings up a lot of issues related to pests. I mean, we just had a presentation by Mark Huddle, who is an entomologist with UCR, who says that we're dealing with a new exotic pest in San Diego County every 42 days. They're picking up a new
Wow.
pest every 42 days. Some of those are of significant importance to agriculture. Some of them are more important for ornamental crops, like some of the things that Jan is going to mention, like South American palm weevil, short hole borer. What else is there these days? Oh,
Japanese beetle,
I'm sorry.
Japanese beetle, that's what's.
No,
That's
it hasn't
what's
become an
getting us.
issue here, but the
Palm weevil.
the palm weevil is one, and now we're on alert for the lanternfly. That is already been picked up in the on the East Coast. So yeah. So the question then becomes, I mean, who are our growers? Who wants to do ag in San Diego? Given all these scenarios. So Jan and I got some funding from the county, which by the way, San Diego County has a unique situation where the county funds what's called one-time only opportunity grants. You submit a proposal, I mean, very quick and fairly easy process. And they give you money to the project that lasts 1 year. So, I mean, if you can sort of create a continuum by reapplying, twisting your projects a little bit, but we've been able in our county, in our office to get grants, and they usually are around 100,000, right, Jan? That's kind of an average, enough to hire one person and to execute a project for a year-long type time horizon. So that's been really good in that sense.
And the budget, the San Diego County Department of Ag's budget is just a budget line from property taxes and stuff.
That is the exact sourcing of the funds, and you help me here, Jan, you may know more about it, but the exact source of the funds, it's not a line item of the budget, but it is out of the land use and environmental group, which our office depends from, and so does the Ag Department. So interestingly enough, because of this dual head monster, our office is a county department under the county structure, the government structure, and also a county office. So it's sort of our budget used to be dependent directly from the land use group. Now our budget is funneled through the Ag Department. And as you can tell, that creates some kind of interesting times in terms of how the budget is allocated and a few other things. So the other thing that is different from us in other counties is that we are under contract with the county. We sign contracts that last 5 years at a time, where we line up goals and activities and deliverables that we'll deliver to the county. And based on those deliverables, we invoice the county, and then they kind of pay at that contract. Under that model, we get about $800,000 from county support, for our office. The challenge now is that because when that original contract was signed, we had about 10 people, academic advisors in the office, and now the number have dwindled down to 2, but the expectations
You got 10
haven't
people's worth of
changed.
work to do, yeah.
So, and that represents a big problem. And also the threat is, what if the county says, okay, now you only have 2 people, so we are going to kind of prorate that from 10 people to 2 people. We're only give you this much. So that's kind of a very scary scenarios that we have down the road. If the university in a way doesn't pick up the ball, we start kind of a restaffing. So in terms of age, our growers are, keep getting older.
Over 55%.
Over 55 over 60, and about 70+% are over 70. Which leads to
That's too old. I don't want to farm. I'm old. I don't want to do that hard work.
yeah, and being again an urbanized county, it's a challenge for the kids, or heirs, to want to farm. They get degrees in technical careers, high paying jobs. And then they want to leave the farm, they hardly ever come back. So finding ways to keep that land in agriculture is a challenge. And it's something that again, some land that can be developed will probably be sold to developers at some point, but land that some farmers like avocado growers who grow on hillsides, they'll probably just let, their trees go. And that's related to water as well, but gender, predominantly male population of farmers. Education and ethnic breakdown. We have a highly educated farming community here. With about 60+% having at least a 4-year college degree. In terms of ethnic, about 70% of them are white, as we could expect. In terms of land tenure or role they play, a lot of them are owner operators. There's still some farmers that grow on lease or rented land, but for the most part, they own the farm the land that they farm. Conventional production is the largest chunk at about 37% of the land that is farmed, but we have significant area that is under organic production as well. Acreage farmed versus acreage owned. 63% of our farmers farm on their 9 acres. So farms tend to be really small. I mean, and we have that discrepancy from farms, say a greenhouse operation that farms 20,000 square feet versus a guy in Ocotillo or Borrego that is farming 50,000 acres, kind of a cattle rancher. And many times the guy with the 20,000 square feet greenhouse or mushroom growing operation is bringing in $1 million. The guy in the desert is bringing in 50,000. So how do you reconcile those things, in terms of?
Ramiro, and also, if I may, are these smaller farms, folks with off-farm labor? In other words,
It's a combination of all, really. I mean, a lot of them are part-time farmers. They have a farming operation, or one of the member of the family, wife or husband, has a non-farm job that they get a significant part of their income and or benefits that would, it still allows them to be in farming. Annual grows. I'll show you this. About 78% grows fall under the small farm definition. When I started on the job with that number, we had like 82% of the farms were grossing under $100,000. That used to be the threshold that we used to define the small scale farmers versus larger farms. Then the USDA came up with the, I think, late 90s with the 250,000 K figure to define the small farms. Percentage wise, our number only increased 4%, from 78% to 82% with an increase of $150,000. So that tells us that a lot of the farmers are either really small or really big, grossing more than $1 million. So we wanted to see what motivated people, to farm. And yeah, profits are obviously the overarching concern, a really important concern for most, but we also look at values, some environmental values like stewardship, food security, and then we had a mix of things, and that is reflected in some of the things that we're seeing in the county in terms of farming and how connected they are to the community and a lot of the crops they grow. And again, since over the last 10 years, there's a group called the Food Systems Alliance that they've taken a really strong stance or strong positions kind of driving food policy in the county, and also impacting agricultural policy to a certain extent, with some of the policies that the county is enacting and implementing. So other facts about local farmers. Back to your question, Hernan, 74% of them receive other non-farm income. 76%, this is on the technology side, use smartphones and computers. 55% use outside labor. So the relationship between in terms of cost of production or the highest cost input between labor and water depends what group or what sector of the industry you're in. You're talking about a floriculture and nursery grower, the cost of water is relatively non-important compared to labor. And if you look at a field grower, it is the opposite, where labor takes so that the trade-off between those two depends on the intensity of the operation per se. 48% respond that cost the most significant barrier to adopt new practices. 74% express a desire to expand, and most really access information through online sources. So in terms of major challenges, cost of doing business, laws and regs, and labor-related issues were the main business concerns that people had. And a lot of these are not, single items. There is a lot of factors that go into cost. But in terms of production issues, pest management, land and water availability and prices, and soil fertility management were the main issues that came up. Also along those lines, declining profits, and the combination between low prices and high production costs, and the impact of imports, foreign competitions were really concerning to people. Growth and urbanization, aging farmers, succession planning is a big problem. Some of the things that are assets or opportunities that we have being where we are is the demographic and ethnic diversity, because there is opportunity for some small growers to tap into really unexplored niche markets per se. An example is African American consumers. We tend to group them and think that they all will have these same behavioral patterns. But when you dissect the African American community in San Diego, we have a lot of Eastern African immigrants that have distinct food and eating preferences than, say, African Americans from the South or from the Caribbean or from other parts of the world that they just happen to share skin color, but their food preferences are totally different. So when you look in depth at those, there are a lot of opportunities there. When we look at the local or regional markets, we tend to look at the LA Basin South to include the Tijuana and even Mexicali, because those are within 2 hours driving distance from San Diego County. So when you look at our market size at a regional market, we have 20 million people within 2 hour driving distance from San Diego. And if you can grow whatever that you can sell to 1% of that 20 million people, I think you'd probably be doing okay. Infrastructurally, we have a good infrastructure, good cooling storage facility for our crops or airport access. Again, there is a LA, San Diego, Ontario, Orange County, if you're flying things, which is what a lot of growers do with some highly perishable crops like heirloom tomatoes. They are cheap to the East Coast. Market trends, because of the drive or the trends for high antioxidant fruits and food items that tend to be highly specialized, that usually command a higher price that our growers can get into, and yeah, the premium price. I mentioned climate, year-round production, regulatory environment has changed for small-scale agriculture or small-scale farmers in California with the passage of a few bills like the Urban Agriculture Bill, cottage food laws, farm stays. These allow a lot of the farmers in San Diego County that have the skill set to get into this type of business, because this is a whole different skill set that is required to get into this and perhaps diversify the revenue stream. And again, consumers are educated and all the.
Talk about what's the AB 551? It's like just basically allowing you to grow in your backyard.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
Like raise X number of chickens in your backyard and sell the eggs.
and what's farm stays about? I'm not familiar with that.
AB 1258 is it's a bill that allows farmers to host visitors
Oh,
without
okay.
meeting requirements of a bed and breakfast type of
Okay,
operation.
so
yeah.
like come stay on my farm and,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And there are some restrictions in terms of whether you serve food or not, number of
But
rooms, number
still,
of
it's,
people.
it's a
Yeah,
little
but-
bit of an
yeah.
avenue.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is an
cool.
avenue for some people. And and all these things related to ag tourism, it sort of created a challenge because a lot of people, it's the question, what came first, the tourist or the farm? So when we started with this ag tourism project, it was promoting it, it was to help existing farms diversify their revenue stream based on the assets they had on the farm, that they were not necessarily productive or that were being, underutilized. But then a lot of people bought the farm and created the ag tourism experience or activity before they produce any crops. And the same thing with the AB at 1258, where people, okay, there's an opportunity, like the Airbnb thing here now, where people buy houses used to put an Airbnb in them,
Yeah.
used to Airbnb them or beer or beer bowl, whatever, without thinking about living in it. It was just kind of as a business model for them to do it. So the same thing happened with some agricultural farms. So although the state approved 1258, the county modified the ordinance to require that you had to be on a property 10 acres or less and have an actual be actively growing some agricultural crop.
You have to actually grow something to consider yourself a farmer.
Well, yeah, I mean, otherwise
Yeah,
you end
that's
up with
great.
a lot of farm stays. So in terms of current projects that we've been working on, this is county funded projects, as I mentioned. We got sorry, the URL doesn't show here, but I can, and my internet was really lousy, so I won't try to open the links. But we created what's called an online agricultural resource directory, essentially a guide to agribusiness for people wanting to start up, sort of as a kind of a lineup of permits and regulatory issues they have to deal with to start a business. This is a list of resources, kind of tied up to the first column here, where people can go for information locally to comply or to get, with whatever. And then ag tourism. And as part of the ag tourism, the centerpiece for this is this ag tourism story map, which is kind of several layers of information. We've been working with the GIS group at Davis, at the division of A&R. It's a searchable database. Recently, we partnered with the Farm Bureau they were trying to do something similar. And then we told them, hey, we're doing this already. Why don't we join forces here? So the agreement was that if they are members of Farm Bureau, the thing is, our site is for all farmers in San Diego County. Farm Bureau wanted to do it for their members only. So we compromise in a way that if they are members, they can click on that option and the Farm Bureau logo member will show up on the screen, on the whatever farmer profile they pull up. And so we're just about to launch this after we've been finally tweaking it to accommodate Farm Bureau's request. And there are a few other things that we had to negotiate and kind of reconcile how we wanted to do things, but I think we're ready to go with that.
You need a spelling correction on your agritourism picture. No, on the main page.
Go left.
Left.
Oh, yeah, where the tractor or.
Above the tractor.
Yeah.
Oh, tourism. Oh, yes, Jan. Another set of eyes that cut that. See, we've been looking at that thing going.
I'm.
We've been looking at it for a couple-
for my peers, okay?
We've been looking at it for a couple of years and we
Yeah,
haven't
you're
got
like,
that
"Ah,
one. So
it all
Send
blurs."
everything to Carol.
we had to bring Carol to help us with
Actually,
that.
yeah, I do a lot of editing for my
And
peers.
the other thing project that I'm been involved with is this food safety education for small and socially disadvantaged farmers. This is funded through CDFA on a 5-year, on a 3-year contract. And they are funding community education specialists to kind of help reach out the underserved farmers and really try to find them, and help them out to bring them in compliance with produce safety rule by way of providing information or trainings or helping them develop a food safety plan.
I see you have that different languages.
And
too.
we have it in multiple languages, depending on where the farmers are located, like Asian, the Hmong communities, Central Valley, Fresno, San Joaquin, Sacramento, Continuum. A lot of Chinese growers in the Santa Clara, Salinas Valley area. And here in San Diego County, we're kind of working on San Diego, Riverside County, targeting Hispanic growers, and even Imperial County will be kind of lumped into that. Yeah, that's all I have. Kind of bring you guys up to speed with what's going on in San Diego. And now Jan Gonzalez and Jerry will discuss specific projects that kind of target some of the issues that we've identified here. So Jan, it's yours. Think you're next. Think you're next. Or...
Rock, paper, scissors.
That's all right, check it out.
Nice.
And tomorrow, the farms will visit, kind of highlight some of the issues that were brought up here.
Is that tamarisk?
So Ramiro, how does the lemons survive here in, as a crop? Because you think of, lemons from where where else, where waters.
Well, they haven't.
No more lemons in lemon grove.
It's very marginal.
Those are the crops that are still going out. I guess what's the crop that's mainly going out? The crop.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like
It's
lemons.
the price of water. Our lemon growing in California happens mostly in Ventura. And they live a little bit in the Coachella, Riverside County, because of the price of water.
The water's cheaper there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that 1686, every time you want to put an acre foot of water on your crop, that's how much it's gonna cost you.
Yep.
But if I could just sell some water in Montana.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing, when you look at avocados and citrus,
I know,
typically,
wherever-
the growers have to supplement 3 acre
Just.
feet of
Yeah.
water, just to keep their growers
I
alive.
could rent. I'm renting land for like.
And they're
$6
watering-
acres.
they're having to water
I
that
could get
Like what? what's,
Well, I mean, that's per
Boatload.
year. This is,
Oh, that's per year.
yeah, the application frequency and interval will change seasonally it peaks in summer months, like late July into August. That's where the highest application rate for water happens, when our evapotranspiration is at the highest point. But Jerry will probably touch more on that or can clarify that.
Briefly.
Yeah.
So what's the cost of desalinization though?
Good question, Rod. I don't know what the price per acre foot of water is for water coming out of the salinization plant in Carlsbad, because there is some of that going into the,
Very expensive.
but it's pretty
It's about
expensive.
1,600, huh?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really?
Way more,
Way more.
way more.
The other thing that happens, and probably the speaker from the Water Authority will explain that in more detail, is a shift in our source of water. Because the relative portion that used to come from the Colorado River has increased compared to what used to be, coming in from the Sacramento Delta. So the water has more salts in it,
Yeah.
causing a lot more challenges, a lot more issues with the growing aspect for local farmers. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. I'm program staff and I've survived on soft funding with a lot of support from the academics such as Ramiro, who helped put in and serve as project investigators for a variety of different programs. And I tend to be brought on to develop short-term education and outreach programming. So a lot of my that are multidisciplinary and across several sectors or have several different types of target audiences. So I guess really any research that's involved is definitely more qualitative or curating good quality science-based information, developing different education and outreach handouts and materials and resources for whatever broad range of audiences that we have. So I'm going to I started out with wildfire and other natural resource programs and have moved into agriculture these last couple of years. I'll just talk about a few of the programs that I have worked on. So the climate resilient agriculture is the current one that's being developed, and it's been the longest funded that we've had in this kind of one-time only or short-term funding, soft funded programs. Gold spotted oak borer, not really ag-related, but impacts a lot of our tourism industry and property values and so forth. Invasive shot hole borer a little bit, some of these other invasive pests that we deal with. I'll talk about briefly, and then the beekeeping programs in San Diego County. So the climate resilient ag, again, that's the current program I'm really focused on right now. In year 4 of a 4 to 5 year funding support. And it's in support of the county's climate action plan, which was developed in 2018, but it's under revision. Right now in San Diego County, it was estimated in that original plan that the agriculture industry contributed 5% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. And that includes like the livestock and fertilizer, all components related to agriculture, ag machinery emissions. One of the areas of contention is that it didn't take into account, the climate action plan from the county did not take into account carbon sequestration. And we have all these orchard crops and all soil and land.
So you get ding for the cows and don't
Right,
get any bonus for
so
the plants. Yeah.
what we're really trying to do is not only raise awareness about the impacts of climate change, let's say, to the general public, and how growers are being impacted by this, but also how much agriculture already is somewhat of a partner in the solutions to reducing greenhouse gas emission impacts. And then helping especially newer growers, new farmers, understand some of the different resources and actions, that a lot are more, the younger growers seem to be much more interested, have more of a real strong environmental focus and reasonings for wanting to become involved with growing and want to know the right ways. One of the projects I'd like to do in the year 5 is have more do more cost benefit analysis work. So if I can find someone to help with that, that's what I'm hoping for. Different growing production systems and different sizes of farms. And then, provide resource information. That's what we're doing right now. One of the key, all of the programs, having a website where you can collect all of your resources and have it available anytime. Easy accessibility. One of the key programs we've done is having an annual symposium and offered all the resources associated with the different presentations and so forth. So the first year, 3 years ago, was a day-long event and really gave that overall introduction to agriculture. And we invited everyone from elected officials, regionally, Southern California wide, to growers and educators, NGOs, general interested stakeholders, general public, regulatory government entities and so forth. And trying to help everyone get on the same page and the same understanding of really understanding what are the issues and concerns. We hold workshops and trainings. This last year, we partnered with one of the resource conservation districts in our county, and we had organized monthly kind of conservation subject matter discussion series. So there was just one on rangelands this month. And last month I worked with Jerry and we did one on water runoff, water capture and so forth. Yeah. Water quality. Right now, we're working on a white paper. We just gone through our internal university review. We're updating right now based on comments. We're actually expanding the section where we talk about our local native tribes and agriculture. I'd be real interested to find out more about the tribal ag program that you mentioned. We have 18 federally recognized tribal nations in San Diego County, which is a really high concentration. I think the highest in the country. So in the next project I talk about, I will talk more about my work with the tribes, but that's definitely an area we want to continue to serve and provide information and work with. And then we're just,
How much land and water do they have, those tribes?
I should know that. I didn't know.
Very, very little, Ross.
Yeah.
And a lot of these colonies that we have in San Diego County were actually landless. Didn't have a
That's what I was
land base.
thinking,
They were
yeah.
recognized, but they were kind of part of some of the incorporated communities. But as you might suspect, the casino laws, changes in California allowed some of these tribes to actually acquire land or got offers to fund
Yeah.
land acquisition. And I don't know if it's been put on trust, you know, with the bill, you know, with the BIA, as most tribes are, or if it's just, I don't know what the ownership format is, but then they've acquired land and then they put casinos on. There is only, I believe, 3 reservations that are actually maybe.
Farming?
I think it's Pala, Poma,
Rincon?
Rincon, and Viejas. I believe they are the 4 tribes.
Oh, I thought Sequan and
Oh,
Campo.
Siquan, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
That have
I don't know.
some sort of agriculture
Well,
going
Viejas
on the
too.
properties, on the reservation.
Well-
And then they had a bigger land area to start with.
Santa Isabel has ranching, I think.
Yeah.
So there's more.
Raising land.
Yeah, that's,
Anyhow, so those are the, oh, and this story map.
Are you the technician behind the story map, or what's your
No.
process for developing?
No, I'm just the idea person.
Yeah.
Wouldn't this be cool? You know?
Yeah.
Well, I can, but I do have staff. And she's actually in the process of getting her GIS certification right now. So this is actually going to work perfect for her classwork too, coursework too. So yeah, we're working together on that one. Ramiro slightly mentioned these special kind of funded partnerships with our California Department of Food and Ag. One such program, a statewide program, is the Climate Smart Agriculture Program, and that was funding to hire 10 community education specialists to serve as technical assistance providers to help growers apply to learn about and apply for the different incentive programs that CDFA has been offering for climate smart farming practices. Those would be the Healthy Soils Program, the State Water Efficiency Program, and the Alternative Management Program there. I can just tell you this year, 75 million was set aside, budgeted for healthy soils, and growers can get up to 100,000 for programs, or if you are an organization wanting to do a demonstration project, you can get up to 250,000. And those projects must reduce greenhouse gas emissions to sequester carbon and improve soils. Trying to get to my, how do I get here? Oh, well. I'm trying to get to my notes. Let's do this. I can't say it, 50 million, I think, for the water efficiency and enhancement program. But I'm sorry, I can't see my notes to get the details for how much each grower can get. So both the Healthy Soils and the SWEET program, the water efficiency program, are open right now. And I don't think their funding has been established or determined for the alternative manure management, nor is that open right now. So we're fortunate enough to have one of those community education specialists housed here in San Diego, and she serves San Diego and Riverside counties in these programs. So even though that's a statewide UC program, and the program I'm developing and working on is a county funded program, because she's here in San Diego and helping San Diego growers, we highly coordinate to make sure that we cross promote each other's programs and events and have, consistent messaging on different topics and so forth. So we were hoping she might be here today, but she could make it. So the other project I wanted to talk about, the program, is Gold Spotted Oak Borer. This really is more of a natural resource issue, but it has really impacted a lot of our mountain and foothill tourism and properties. So it's a non-invasive flathead wood boring beetle discovered in 2008, although it was probably here as early as 2002. We think it was transferred in firewood, infested firewood coming from Arizona. It's impacting 3 native oak species, our California, our coast live oak, our California black oak, and canyon live oak. So iconic oak trees in the state. So it was brand new pest here, and you know, it's one of those things, the more you research, the more you learn about your objectives and your programming changes. I was actually asked by the county fire marshals to get involved in this program for the fuel management issues, because so much of the oaks in eastern San Diego County, where we've had these huge fires, were dying and were causing these huge fuel loads. And the program I worked on prior to this was wildfires. So they kind of just moved me into that. So this program has been going on since 2009. And we've had county funding, Forest Service, Forest Health Protection, state and private forestry funding, California Department of Forestry Fire. And just recently we got one for the National Wildlife and Fish Foundation. Talking about changing objectives. So first it was raising awareness and answering residents' questions about why are my oaks dying? What's happening? It just seemed to go. And then when different organizations received funding to help residents with tree removals, especially during evacuation corridors along evacuation corridor roads in the East County, it was really working with residents, helping them understand why this was so important to remove these trees that were like amplifier trees for these insects, so we can get the population reduced in those areas. You know, people love their oaks. I mean, they'll build their houses around them in some cases. Wow. And then we started realizing within I'd say the first year we started our program. So this East County area over there is where it was first really heavily infestations were found. And I'd say within the first year, it was discovered almost along the coast near La Jolla, just on the west side of the Interstate 5 in a canyon there. And so we're thinking that's just oak firewood that's been moved from East County. Since then, I think in 2012, we found it in isolated areas in Riverside County and in isolated park areas in Orange County, and in a really odd jump in northern LA County in the Angeles National Forest. Now it's being found in different areas of San Bernardino County. So this program jumped from local East County community education outreach to county-wide very quickly, and then it became Southern California regional-wide very quickly. So we also do some work with statewide invasive tree pest groups as well. Here's the website. That's what it looks like in the East County, those dead oaks. Some of the symptoms of crown impacts, staining, D-shaped exit holes because they're flathead borer. We work with agencies, we work with a variety of different industries, communities, different NGOs. This is where I've done a lot of work with the different local tribes, workshops and field trainings. And like I said, we've done a lot of trainings from the 7 Southern California counties in South. A lot of informational handouts and management tools, online management tools and reporting if you suspect you have symptoms of.
Has there been an effect on that? You mentioned it's been
the outreach.
Yeah.
Well, because there's been these really odd, isolated, very far distant
pockets
in other counties. We're hoping that it's not just this consistent flow, and we still think it's probably infested wood that's being moved. So we're trying to amplify those messages as much as we can, but there's no regulation on firewood transportation. You know, we've tried working directly with all the different firewood dealers locally, especially when you have all this oak wood that's dying and needs to be removed. But also working a lot with the public works departments, the water departments, utility groups that have contractors come in and cut wood along like the lines and so forth. Training them on, this is an important issue, Caltrans too. This is an important issue and you need to have a management plan for this invasive wood that you're cutting down. Just don't leave it scattered here on the side of the road, deal with it. And this year, well, actually, hopefully next month, we'll have some funding finalized. That funding from the National Wildlife and Fish and Wildlife Foundation to develop some more campground and youth-specific education and create an online course for training and getting continuing education units and so forth. And then have a real targeted invasive pest outreach to those HOAs and golf course tourism locations essentially.
This is breaking my heart because
Yeah, Oaks.
some of my fondest memories are on Descanso at Live Oak Ranch. I mean, and San Diego doesn't have a whole lot of trees to begin with, let's
No.
face it. That's really our only
Yeah.
native trees, except for the pines up in Julian and
Mhm,
Mount
mhm.
Laguna.
Yeah, all those
So-
areas, county park, I mean, it was just in campgrounds, yeah. The other one that I worked on is, we call it invasive shot hole boar. It's actually two different species, I guess. So Polyvicus shot hole boar, which is more in Orange and Los Angeles County, Caruccio shot hole boar, which is more in San Diego, and I think a little bit across border in Riverside. That impacts mainly our natural wildland areas and county parks, trees, urban trees, but it also will attack avocados. And actually the avocado industry is the one who jumped on it and supplied funding for this research on this right away. We work closely with, he mentioned Mark Hoddle, based out of UCR. He's done some work on this as well, but a lot of agencies are involved in this one. But this is just an example before and after. This is right down here in the Tijuana River Regional Park. These are willows. So that was the picture from before and then what they did to the trees after. It is regrowing back and it seems to be okay. So, but that's a huge problem. Really in Orange County, it's a huge, huge, huge problem. Attacks over, well over 65 reproductive host trees and a lot of them natives, so your willows and your London plane and sycamores and cottonwoods and there's a lot. So that's the complex pest. And then the South American palm weevil, Romero mentioned, is a large beetle. It's attacking canary palms and commercial date palms. Canary and commercial date palms. So that's a huge industry. So that's both
That's one of my
nursery,
food,
ag,
yeah.
and tourism. Again, palms being an iconic.
I'm not sure if it attacks date palms though, does it?
Yes.
Oh, it is,
Uh-huh.
okay, because Mark was saying they weren't sure if it would be a.
I think so. I think, yeah. In fact, in Riverside, there's an event, I think next month, up in Coachella
Okay.
for the date palm growers
I need my date shake.
on it. So another one is our beekeeping and honeybee education and outreach. So we've had two programs funded by the county, just developing and helping to support their new ordinance, not support it, but helping to get the word out about it. So we're becoming a new beekeeper and then San Diego Master Beekeepers programs, which I think probably a lot of your states have master beekeeping
So
programs.
what are your regulations like here? Or is there any opportunity for urban beekeepers?
Yes.
They have to get permission from all their neighbors?
No.
Or is there a
No.
land, a minimum acreage requirement?
Depending on how many hives and where you're at, what the concentration of population is. If you're in unincorporated areas, so county jurisdictions. Some of the municipalities do have specific regulations for their jurisdiction. The city of San Diego definitely has backyard beekeeping regulations. So basically, we're trying to, increase awareness of and protect honeybee health. There was a huge new county ordinance developed, which had all these different rankings and specificities about hive placement and, inspections and registration and education and so forth. So we, as a non-biased, non-authoritarian organization, we were asked to help work with the beekeepers, and we had a very active and somewhat challenging or
Yeah, you weren't the bad guys. You were just trying to help explain it. We know what that's like.
there's this, San Diego Beekeepers Association, which we're really challenging a lot of this.
Can you?
Is there someone?
admit that
Ruby.
person?
Ruby's trying to get in.
I'm gonna do it from over here.
I used to think all these security protocols on
Thank you for
Zoom
telling me. I
meetings
just
were
can't- I keep
ridiculous till
missing
we
that.
got hacked a few weeks ago. Yeah, it didn't go well.
So again, a website, but we developed an online training. We developed a lot of great handouts. I'm going to switch to the web browser to show you a couple of things on this shortly that we're really excited about. Workshops and trainings, which also included hands-on field training, fully suited. We worked very closely with our statewide apicultural specialists up at UC Davis. And to develop the online training, the county requires all beekeepers annually to take this training, refresh their education, and then re-register. So we still stay involved, mainly reporting what's going on with the online courses and with the results from the online courses, and then website and resource updates, keeping those things refreshed.
Why the emphasis on annual education on beekeepers?
They want to remind people that you need to keep them watered and you need to check the hives for the queens and making sure that they're just remembering to do all of this. Just really good beekeeping management practices, best management practices, a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, I don't know the number, but I know there's issues with wild bees being brought in into local hives and there's some horrible attacks in communities just because they're wild.
Yes, the proximity to people and the organization of the hive and
Plus, they have to feel they get some kind of benefit out of their registration money.
And then the master beekeeping, it was a pilot master beekeeping program. It was only for 1 year, but they had quite a large cohort. I don't know the number that totally were certified at the end of the program, but they got 8 trainings and testing. And now those volunteers continue to work with the statewide master beekeeping program office and directly with the Ag Commissioner's office. And that's all I had. For that, I just wanted to show you if I can. Trying to get this closed, sorry. Anybody have any suggestions? I don't know why I can't see the mouse. Let's stop this. I'm just trying to stop. Yeah, I did that. This is removed.
Your mouse. Yay.
Yeah. Okay, and Jerry's. Oh, can I show you just real quick? Sorry, Jerry, I gotta share this. One of the, Ben, who some of you saw when he first came in, he's just a great graphic artist. One of the beekeeping things that we created. Let's see if I can find it. This is, no, I don't know. I thought I had it up, but I don't. well, he created a really good children's outreach. Oh, here it is. Program handout. Huh, I don't know. Never mind. That's yours, Jerry.
All right, it's almost 5. Congratulations on making it awake and alive. Presentation. I'm gonna try and keep it short to send everybody home happy and start your happy hour. My name is Jerry Spinelli. I'm the production horticulture advisor with University of California in San Diego County. And I started about 14 months ago in this new position, and I kind of hit the ground running on water issues, working on irrigation, because water is such an expensive resource here. But also there's a strong relationship between how you manage the irrigation from the irrigation side and how much runoff you produce, and that gets you in trouble with water quality regulators if you're a grower. So how do we improve our irrigation management so we save water and also we produce less runoff? The challenges, as Ramiro mentioned, are these steep slopes, and then to improve the distribution uniformity, you want to make sure that you measure pressure. And so I trained a lot of irrigator in measuring pressure, running these catch can experiments that allow you to measure this distribution uniformity. That is some kind of efficiency of the irrigation system, and you wanted to have it as high as possible, because if everything is irrigated uniformly, then you don't have to over-irrigate to make up for the part of the field that receive less water. There's also some connection with the plant pathology and with plant diseases if you over-irrigate. This is a picture that I took at the same nursery on the same day, and there were an incredible number of different sprinkler heads. And it's it's not always easy to convey the message that this one may produce 6 gallons per minute, and this one may produce 2 gallons per minute. So if you run them at the same time in the same block, one side of the block will get 3 times the water that the other side will get. And so this side will produce a lot of runoff that you don't want, and this other side will see plants that are dead. Measuring pressure is also one of the big thing. For drip system, we usually need 10 psi. For sprinkler system, from 30 to 40. It's not unusual to measure 5, and it's not unusual to measure 93. I also do irrigation scheduling, and container production is very good in this sense, because you can just put it on a scale and wait, and from the difference from the day before and the day after, you will know the difference in weight is mostly water. And I also use these load cells that are basically a scale that measures 24/7 and logs the data in a data logger. And in this project, I also evaluated the efficiency of different sprinkler head, measuring also wind speed, that, as you may expect, is a strong variable that affect distribution uniformity on sprinkler irrigation. And also we monitor with flow meters how much water the blocks were getting. And again, we did the catch can experiments. And this is some preliminary data where we are comparing different sprinkler heads. So the efficiency, this is the y-axis, this is the efficiency, so the highest the better. And you see how it decreases as the wind speed increases, as you may expect, but it's surprising that the blue dot, these sprinkler heads are more resistant or resilient to wind speed. And the same thing we did the same thing with pressure, although these low numbers were probably mostly caused by wind speed. The flow meters allow us to compare the water use of the block to evapotranspiration that comes from the weather station. It's kind of a rough estimate of how the grower is doing. And in this case, the lines were pretty parallel, the blue being evapotranspiration and the red being water applied. Although in some cases you see that maybe there was some over application here because the slope is higher. But in general, they follow each other. It's not unusual to see that water applied is twice or 4 times evapotranspiration. This is the data from the load cell. And so imagine that you are measuring the weight of a pot 24/7 and the pot is being irrigated. So what are these jumps here?
Water.
Irrigations, right?
Yeah.
What are these drops here?
Evapotranspiration.
During the day, right? What are these flat periods here?
Night.
Night. So this is night, there is no evapotranspiration, the sun comes up, the plant uses the water, the weight goes down, and then in this case, they irrigate it at night. So we also, what we do at the beginning, we take the pot and we irrigate it until it's completely saturated, and then we let it drain for 1 hour. Then we have at the weight that is called container capacity. So it's the maximum amount of water that pot can hold. And so then when we get this data, if the grower had managed this data to be a lot closer to this line, probably the plant would have grown faster or better. So if the grower had this data, probably this irrigation could have lasted twice, or probably this irrigation after this big, really hot, high evapotranspiration day could have been higher in order to help the weight of the pot to get closer to container capacity. And this is something that can be done, of course, if you have the whole story, if you have a load cell, but even if you have only one scale and you ask the irrigator to measure 10 pots, you kind of will get an idea of where are you? Are you here or are you here, right? So you will get some information.
So where would
Yes,
the
sir.
capillary mats be like on that? You know, if you just had where they just kind of suck in the water, and where would that be on that line or no?
Well, so that's something that happens in greenhouses.
Yeah.
I would guess, I guess it depends on what are you putting the scale on? Is the mat on the scale also, or is the scale between the mat and the pot? But then if it is, then the pot is not sucking the water anymore because there is the scale
you'd have to have
in between.
some kind of light.
So
Yeah.
I guess you could pull it. You could have a hanging basket
Yeah.
and measure the weight that way.
Well, I'm just curious how it would compare, you know, in terms of the water retention with the capillary mat versus that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Many growers responding to water quality regulators have also built retention ponds, and many of them are lined so they don't pollute groundwater. And some of them recycle it. And in this job, we are recycle the water after treating it. This job, we're measuring how much water goes into this pond, so then the grower can design the recycling system. In this other big nursery that has also another big pond, we are designing the irrigation system. The irrigation system here is really low, it's really old, and has only one sprinkler that serves the bed. So this is the current design, but you won't overlap because the sprinkler applies a lot of water close to it and little water far away from it. So you want to have some overlap between the contiguous sprinklers. So we proposed 2 solutions of redesigning the irrigation system to increase the distribution uniformity, and we suggested also some sprinklers for the grower. I want to end with a little bit of a fictionalized characterization of the nurseries that I work with out there. One kind is the large corporate nursery. I call it the corporate nursery. They're typically big operation with a highly hierarchical structure, very many levels. I don't know if this many, but often there are at least 4 or 5 levels between a grower, an irrigator, a head grower, a production manager, and all the way to the owner. Typically, the decisions in capital investment happen at this level. So the head grower or the grower doesn't have the capacity to say, we want a new greenhouse, we want $100,000 for a new set of filters for the irrigation water. And as a result, there is a little bit of a trade-off between the capital investment that tends to be low, tends to be really tight at the top of the pyramid, and the operating expenses that tend to be high. So water is high because the efficiency of the irrigation system is not very high. Propane, we spend a lot of money propane to heat those greenhouses if they're not very efficient. Typically, the response time is low, and all these factors make it a kind of a low-tech, low-maintenance system. And also, there is a little bit of a disconnect between the production manager and the irrigator. And sometimes when I talk to them, they complain to me like, these guys are irrigating too much. And I'm like, well, I thought they were working for you, So it's sometimes there is not a lot of control from the top to the bottom. And there is the old joke that nobody gets fired for over irrigating, right? So you only get fired if you under irrigate. Nevertheless, there's a lot of economies of scale, and they're very, very high value crop. And so, as Ramiro mentioned earlier, compared to labor, water and propane are, I don't want to say low cost, but relatively smaller expensive. And of course, there is a risk of strong environmental impact with this water runoff and propane. And there is also kind of a general feeling that we are putting off fire. The thing is very reactive. It's not very proactive. On the other end of the spectrum, I have what I call the niche nursery, de la crème nursery, which is an indoor foliage and flower production. Typically it's smaller, maximum 20, 50 acres if they're big, or often smaller, 10 acres. The owner is also the general manager and the production manager. Do you agree with me, Ramiro? I see you make funny faces. No, okay. Okay. And typically the capital investment is really high, because this person understands that on the long run they will save a lot in water and in propane if they run a tight ship. And the relationship between this person, the manager, that is the owner, and the workers is very close. So they work close together, and they share the challenges and the objectives. The products are premium product. It's typically a niche market, very specialized production, and very nimble, very flexible, very fast to adapt to market and also to regulations. Aware of new technology, they're doing really well. Those that know what they're doing are doing really well. They're very responsive to extension. The problem is that mostly they're teaching me instead of me teaching them. So, but there is some learning happening there. So I guess I'm being successful. I have a website where I have a lot of seminars when I talk about distribution uniformity, runoff, other topics in water quality, pumps, how to manage irrigation in containerized production, nitrate, which is a big issue with water quality, tensiometer for the trees, again, nitrate in irrigation water, evapotranspiration, everything you never wanted to know about evapotranspiration, some irrigation on landscape, and yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and I hope I kept you alive until the very end. It's 4:59. I guess we
Nice job.
some questions now.
Can we see the last slide?
Yeah. So this is, I just put it there because we had a meeting with Ramiro, and I'm not an expert in landscape irrigation, but I was preparing a presentation about landscape irrigation, and I walked out of my office, and within 50 feet in the landscape next to my office, I found this nozzle that is a 15. It sprinkles 15 feet far away. This one sprinkles 6 feet far, and this one 10. So somebody has installed these mismatched models of and they're called MPR, matched precipitation rate, but the precipitation rate is matched within the same model, not across different models. And so here they had these 3 different models, and this black one puts out, depending on the pressure, at 20 psi puts out 2 inches per hour. This other one puts 1.96, which is not too far away, but this other one at 20 psi puts 4 inches per hour. So this orange one applies twice as much water as these ones. And I promise if you walk out here, you will find some outrageous.
And it's closer to the electrical box too. so
That's right.
it's,
Then it's
extra
great
bonus
there.
there,
Yeah. I had a bunch of these. I just put this one, but I had a bunch of these with it.
So how much though is it, if it's putting on twice as much for one, though, it compensates maybe for the other one, you know, if they adjust the whole system down. I'm just thinking like in my own line, you know, I mean, I'll put more in the middle one, you know, than the outside, because usually it's like I almost have to supplement, you know, areas of it anyway to keep it alive, you know. But maybe that's not the case here, but I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, isn't there some kind of, I mean, it's not like it's all being lost necessarily, even if it's putting twice as much on, right? Because I mean, it's making up for other areas. I mean, the water moves.
Probably depends on
You
a
know,
lot of things. The
yeah.
filtration rate, what happens to that water, if there's a pump there, does it start turning off? How long do they run it? Does it
Right.
run 5 minutes, they run 50 minutes. In general, good irrigation practices would suggest to use, I'm picking the blue ones, and I use all the blue ones, right?
Right, yeah, no, I mean, that'd be ideal, but I mean, maybe they're not changing because they don't really see, or I guess they don't see the water leaching down, or they don't realize they're losing it, or maybe they're not putting that much on where they're not losing the water, you know? It's just,
Sure.
you know, because like on my lawn in particular, I mean, I have the setting so low that everything's burnt, you know, I almost have to like supplement with the hose just to keep things alive, you know?
So thank you for dealing with irritation, as I call it. Because I'm, even though I'm a county educator, I'm on an experimental ag station that's a small one. It's only 20 acres. And we lease out the back 15 acres. So I have 5 acres of demonstration gardens and things that, yeah, and that's always my favorite call because there's always something broken, not functioning right, yeah, flooding, something. So it's like, okay, we're dealing with irritation again today, folks.
So Rose, on your system, you said you supplement with the hose?
Well, something, yeah, because usually, I mean, it's always not getting enough water, you can tell, you know what I mean?
Would you increase
What's that?
could you adjust the?
No, I could increase the amount of time, but, you know, I mean, that runs more water, right? You know, so I can just, you know, go out once a week and maybe, you know, just kind of see how it's doing. But turn the hose on for a little bit, you know, and then it soak in deep, you know. And then- Yeah, because I mean, it's amazing how it differs just depending on, you know, kind of what the soil underneath has been, you know. I mean, some areas you're just gonna be dry, it seems like, even if they got equal water. That's what I concluded. You know, if I had even distribution, some areas would be showing suffering signs.
You don't have consistent soil quality.
Exactly.
And sometimes not totally leveled. So
Well, it's pretty level, but it's just the difference in the soil in terms of where. From fill, from, you know, compost and whatnot versus less compost and caliche and all kinds of stuff, you know, once it goes down a little bit, yeah.
okay.
So when you guys are also, when you're talking about untreated water, you're not talking about purple water, right?
No.
Okay. Because that's only for use on non-consumable products, correct?
That
Like
is-
golf courses and.
Well, not necessarily. I think, I mean, the research station, it's all the crops there are on reclaimed water.
I have nurseries that use reclaimed water.
Yeah. And they grow edible crops.
So what's the cost difference between reclaimed water and?
I don't know, Ross, to tell you the truth. I don't have that answer.
Not as cheaper as you would
It's about the
think.
same, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. The growers complain all the time. say,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little cheaper, but not really. It's
Not
worth
really,
it."
yeah.
Because then it has lower quality, so it has
Yeah.
higher salinity.
And I was gonna say that it's the quality issue that also deters some people from using it. Like avocados are the worst trees to grow because they're really sensitive to poor quality water.
Yeah.
They like really pristine.
For quality as lack of micro minerals or.
Or what would the make
No, high salinity.
you know, like.
Yeah, the salt.
It's the
Yeah.
salts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause even the
And
tribes-
that's been an issue with Colorado River water because the salt content is much higher
Yeah.
than what comes from the Sacramento
Oh,
Delta. Usually, snow. No,
Yeah, even out of Phoenix, I mean, the tribe is taking reclaimed water, but they're taking it quite a bit cheaper just because the whole salinity kind of thing, I think, and it's mainly just going on cotton and alfalfa, but still, they, they'd rather just take it. Or I
It
think-
it is even an issue with well water. I mean,
Yeah, I
you
know.
see, like, some people spend a lot of money drilling wells, and then if you're lucky enough to find water, sometimes the water quality is not optimum for for growing citrus, tree
Right.
crops.
Yeah, they have to put a reverse osmosis system in, which makes the cost go up as if you might as well take ocean water.
Some
Yeah.
people do that, or they blend it, they would
Yeah.
use a 50-50, or
Yeah.
they would find a way to titrate it in a way that.
But that's a recipe for disaster, I think, the 50-50, because,
Well, I'm saying 50-50, but it'll change depending on the actual
yeah,
load of the water that you're pulling up and yeah.
because I mean, it'd be really difficult to leach a lot of these production systems, the salts out, right, or not? I mean, if they have a buildup of salt in their soils, these nurseries, it'd be really hard for them to leach the salt out or not.
Well, nurseries, I think they are on almost impermeable.
You mean in the pots, or you mean in the soil, in the ground?
I guess both,
Well, so the pots typically have a mix that is typically peat or sawdust or bark, and it has a very high permeability.
yeah.
So
okay.
typically it leaches
So
easily.
the salt goes through that.
That's
yeah.
right. And there is a thing that is called the leaching fraction, that is some amount of over irrigation that one should
Right.
apply in order to leach salts.
Right, that's the same thing we talk about, yeah, a lot in Arizona, the irrigators, yeah.
Yeah, and they do that in avocados. You want to push because avocados, the root zone, I mean, it's really shallow, the root systems are.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They claim that 80% of the roots, feeder roots, are within 12 inches of the surface, I think.
Wow.
I want to remember.
Really?
So
Wow.
they're pretty shallow. So yeah, you push the salts down below the root zone, and that's all you're striving for. You really have to go.
So they didn't blow over in the wind yesterday, though.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is a challenge with, depends on what type of rootstock you're using, actually. If you're using some of the rootstock that are seedlings, they tend to be anchored much better than when you use like clonal rootstock that don't have a taproot.
I just wondered, I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, citrus is not an issue because they're mostly seedlings, they have a taproot that goes way down.
So is California like Nevada, and that California says it owns all the water in the state? Because like, according, like you're talking about people drilling wells. So state of California doesn't say that they own the groundwater in California?
They didn't, but now they do. I mean, there is what's called SGMA, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Because of the drought with the scarcity of surface water, because of the low snow fall in the Sierra Nevada, the Central Valley was drilled to death. I mean, the water table, they were creating a funnel, you know, just
Yeah.
really, and
Still
so
are,
that,
and still.
and still are, but it was highly unregulated. So now the well water, there is even recharge plans to do, like recharge systems to replenish groundwater. And yeah, and the guy that's gonna talk, Isaiah, that's his specialty, you know, sustainable groundwater management.
Each geographical area,
Yeah,
and it can get very small, has to put together a plan, and it has to be a approved plan. If it's not by, I don't know, it's a couple of years yet, then the state, if it's not an approved plan, then the state will take over that area.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way, that's very oversimplified version.
and here in San Diego, the challenge is because of the topography, people dry, you know, 1,000 feet dry hole. And it's not cheap.
Really? So it can be dry at 1,000 feet here, this close to
Yeah.
the ocean?
Well, I mean, it's the ocean, but you're talking about higher elevation.
Oh, I see.
I mean, it depends on where you are. I mean, sea level. You
Oh,
know,
okay, yeah.
I mean,
San Diego's mostly all natural chaparral.
yeah, and so,
Yeah, if you get salt water, you've lost it, you're worthless.
Just a little prettier desert, that's all.
yeah.
Okay, well, I
Well,
mean,
that's kind of what we have to share from our local.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Jim.
mean,
I found it informative.
I remember not
Yeah.
too many years ago, it was like they were talking about $900 acre foot in San Diego water,
Yep.
you know, that's, man, that's crazy. And now you're saying 1,600, you know. I mean, it's like-
1686, almost 17, yeah.
I mean, yeah, every,
2,000, depends who you ask.
I think every farmer in Arizona would have a heart attack if you gave him that water price. You know, they'd say,
Just
I'm
hop
out of
over to
business.
Imperial Valley. I mean, they
Uh-huh.
have like $30 an acre feet.
exactly, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
Or growing dates in Coachella, you know? Which, by the way, do you think dates use a lot or little water? Just to see what, I would think.
Nothing.
I'd say a lot.
You would say little. They take about 12 acre feet to grow dates.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Wow.
word.
No, it's a desert crop, but that's the reason they only grow on
Oasis.
oasis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away.
Well,
I
how did
actually,
they
I
taste
think,
so good?
Jim, it was, were you on that tour when we went to the Coachella to
Yeah,
look
we're
at
in
a date
the
palm?
date place, and we thought that the guy was lying, oh yeah, we actually thought he just made an error in what telling us.
I don't, was that several years back?
Yeah,
I
it's
I
part
don't
of,
remember the conversation.
part of
about
the
water.
WEC, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the last thing we just had on here was kind of like maybe for, you know, if there's any project meetings or things, but maybe
Can
we
we
can,
record
we can
this-
just
this
visit with
portion
that
again?
while we have our happy.
Can you hit the recording?
What's
It's
that?
still recording.
Oh,
Do you
it
want me
is?
to stop it?
No, it's fine. I thought it was recording. I thought it was, so, sorry.
No, I was just thinking, I guess they have the happy hour thing or whatever, we can just discuss different, I think you're working on, I know, I'd be curious what you're working on with the wild horses and burro, Shannon, that'd be interesting to talk about, yeah.
Ruby, you gonna join us for happy hour?
Carry the computer out there.
Well, hey, at least we're all at the same hotel. You don't have to be, you and I don't have to be designated drivers like usual.
That's right. I can't even get my camera turned back on. There we go.
Yeah,
Now it's yeah, it's been interesting to just listen, but your happy hour is probably in a different location, isn't it? So yeah, so I'll let you guys go have a more relaxed discussion. And
All right. Well, you can
If
too.
anybody acts up, I'll start filming, okay?
okay. All right, and enjoy your tour. I'll see you Friday morning.
Thank you.
See you, Ruby.
yeah.
So in the morning, we'll meet here, or I guess we can meet for breakfast at like 7:15 or 7:30. I don't know, somewhere
That's
there.
what I wanted to discuss. How are we going to arrange transportation? How many cars do we have? Jim says
have a
he
car.
has a car. You have a.
And I have a minivan.
Oh, so there was
Well,
plenty of,
let's go in the minivan so we can get.
there's plenty of
It's
room.
nicer when more
Yeah.
people are together.
Okay,
But I have a
The reason I asked, because I live about 15 miles north of the first stop.
Yeah.
So there is no reason for me to come all the way down here. We
Okay.
can meet at the, I'll wait for you guys at the turn in, which is the corner of El Camino Real and College.
Just give us an address and put it in Google.
Well, that's the thing. The first stop, there isn't a street address. So I just kind of, it's, we're gonna go on a dirt road.
Yeah, yeah, Real in college.
El Camino, what did you say?
No, you're gonna, there is
Okay,
there is
one of the
I
five.
gave you a map. You're gonna go north on I-5, exit Palomar Airport
Okay.
Road.
Okay.
El Camino goes north.
You're
south.
going to turn left at El Camino Real,
Okay, so far I'm with you.
and then you're going to turn right onto College.
So if you could drop a pin on a Google map and email it to one of us.
I've already sent
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't know it.
then send a Google
Well,
map as
whoever drives
well.
with me can be a navigator.
We'll figure it.
What's your number?
Yes, my cell phone, 858.
Oh, you got a new one.
243, no, it's been the same.
Well, see,
Four-
I'm old school.
4608.
Back over all six, still six.
Say it again, 858-243-4608.
858-243-4608, yeah.
All right.
And yeah, we're gonna stop at Valdivia Farms. He grows, I mean, they're dealing with heirloom tomatoes, still field grown heirloom tomatoes or cherries, and they grow about 30 different varieties of tomatoes. So it's kind of
What time are we supposed to be there?
a 9,
Okay, so we need to leave here when?
Says eight,
around 8. I think you should,
up to 5.
you're going against traffic, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Casual dress.
Yes,
Oh, just checking.
shorts.
No flip flops.
So you
Yeah.
figure about 45-minute drive or?
Roughly.
Roughly?
Yeah, you know, just give it, I mean, if we get there early, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then we spend an hour there. The gentleman doesn't speak a lot. He's pretty shy. So he said he was gonna get his son to be there. Because now it's kind of a 3 generations working on the farm, which I told him that was kind of a cool thing that this group would be interested in learning how, you know, they are connecting the. But if not, then I'll pitch in, help translate, because he doesn't feel real confident about this English, but I think he speaks more than as usual, than he lets us to believe, but it's fun. And from there, we're gonna drive 5-10 minutes maybe to the flower fields on the backside. And then from there, maybe we'll just caravan. So I'll just, at the Milano, it's the flower fields, but we're going to see Milano's growing operation, part of it, you know, where they grow olives, blueberries, coffee, ranunculus bulbs.
We visited them
We've been
before,
there
haven't we?
before.
We went to their main facility in Oceanside, where they
Yes.
grow cut flowers. This
Ah.
facility, this is
Oh, this
different.
is a different facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ah,
Yeah,
But
it's
they
kind
did have coffee and blueberries at that place, didn't they?
a few.
A few, not a lot. It was like- it
well,
was
but
like
that
a-
was, I think, a different visit. I think that was for advisory committee group, not necessarily for the WEC. Because I know with the WEC, we went to Oceanside, to their main facility,
Mhm.
where they grow cut flowers, and we went into the cooler and the whole shebang.
I don't remember quite much. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think a small group, we went to Go Green Agriculture, and then we went to the flower fields,
Mhm.
but that was a separate tour. Yeah. And the interesting thing, yeah, it's the connection between the flower fields, Legoland, and you may want to ask Mike that, because he probably explained it better than I did, but it's So the flower fields is sort of established in perpetuity as a mitigation measure for the city of Carlsbad, allowing Legoland to go into that area. So that's part of the poinsettia growing family, the Ekis. I think they used to own that property. And so I don't know how the whole thing unfolds, but matter of fact, part of that mitigation plan, they established something that was called the Carlsbad Agricultural Improvement Fund. They used to offer grants to local growers to sustain agriculture in San Diego. So they would fund the project as long as the project applied to what was grown in Carlsbad. Then I got a couple grants, projects funded out of that. One of them was agtourism development, where we did an economic impact study at the flower fields. So they were started way back in 1998, 9. When George.
Before I was born.
Yeah, exactly. When George, what was yours last name, Jim?
Work?
No, that's the rancher. I'm talking about the Berkeley guy.
Oh, you're talking about the, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well. I can.
Do you remember, Ross?
Yeah.
Who?
George, the original economist out of Berkeley?
Oh.
No, Howard was the labor guy.
The Howard was labor. I don't remember
You can't forget Howard.
What'd you say?
You can't forget Howard.
No, you cannot forget.
Okay. I know.
Yeah.
what you mean now.
Yeah, but he used to do, he was the implant guru of Carl, I mean, of Berkeley at UC. Yeah.
So now there's a implant, one of the gurus, he's at U of Idaho.
Really?
Yeah, one of the folks who founding guys.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, he's post-retired, just doing more of the same, polishing some of the stuff. I can get his name. So I met him, I didn't even know, and they told me, yeah.
Because Tom Harris grew up just about a lot of implant too out of UNR with Howard, what was the guy that was in Vegas? No, George, the guy that used to be in Vegas?
Buddy Borden, yeah,
Buddy Borden, yeah.
he's still there. Tom and Buddy, Tom's still threatening to retire, and I still threaten to call his wife. That's the only reason he hasn't retired yet, is because she doesn't want him home.
The person I have is Greg Alward, co-creator of the Economic Impact Analysis Software Implant. Greg Alward, he's in the College of Natural Resources. He has guided its development and use for almost 40 years. Yeah.
Where were we at before you came here?
I was in Santa Cruz. I was looking for their CD and I was doing
Are we done?
So, yeah.
This?
How about Gordon Meyer? Have you ever heard of him?
Like you close it?
Yeah.
Stop recording.
No?
My wife